All right, folks. Welcome back to Stream Catchers. Your lovable hosts are back in action. It's your boy AB, along with Jack. Jack, what's going on, buddy?
I am doing great. How are you?
Feeling good, feeling great. Glad to have my line back.
Yeah. So we've got a little
There are no streams
interesting
to catch
vibe.
this week.
Yeah, there's no streams to catch this week, so we're gonna do some Marvel rankings. We have ranked all of the Marvel movies in our most favorite to least favorite order, and we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna discuss. We're gonna defend. And I'm excited to go through it. I'm excited to see how similar our lists are because I know that we gravitate towards a lot of the same movies.
Same, yeah, and I think it's a good time to do something like this. What If just ended. We have a few more shows and movies
Hmm.
coming out to end the year, but gosh, we're 29 deep now if you want to include shows and movies. So it feels like a good time, and we have a lot of time to kill before Hawkeye comes out, which I know we're both looking forward to. So this will
Hmm.
be a ranking from everything from Iron Man all the way through What If, and I agree. I'm looking forward to seeing how these align because we're pretty on par for the most part when with the MCU and Star Wars as well.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
um, I guess we'll just start from the bottom. I'll let you go off with your number 29, and we'll kind of go from
Yeah. So
there.
how do you want to do it? Do you want me to go through my whole list and then you go through yours, or how do you
I
want to do
think
it?
I think we'll just each one. You'll say your 29. You'll say what it is. You'll say why it's there, and then I'll say my 29, and we'll just kind of go back and forth.
Okay. I'm gonna take this page out of my notebook here, and I'm going to make a list so I have a visual of your list too,
Okay,
and start from.
that's a good
Oh
idea.
man,
I'll
I
do the
don't, I
same.
don't, I don't even think I have 29 lines on this page.
That's all right. That's all right. You could double paste two on a side and hot dog style. I don't know.
Yeah. So,
For
all
those of
right. So,
you
well,
keeping score at home,
absolutely. I was just going to say spoiler warning because we're obviously going to talk about probably every Marvel property since
oh,
2008. So, if you
for
haven't seen
sure, for
stuff,
sure.
go
Especially
go
stuff that
watch
has
it.
come out this year, right? Like Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen that yet, we're obviously going to talk about that. Black Widow,
Yep.
all of the shows that have come out. Although, if you've been listening to us since day one, we've covered everything but Wanda Vision. So
Yeah.
you've probably heard us talk about it anyway. So
Yep.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna.
That's part of my biggest regret with this podcast is that we didn't think of it sooner because I would have loved to have done WandaVision and Mandalorian.
At the same, yeah, man, definitely WandaVision, Mando would have been great too, because they kind of went
Yeah.
right from one to the next too, right? It was
Hmm.
not much wait time between. So, yeah, we
Hmm.
were, we were off by a few months, but that's all right. We made it in time for Falcon Winter Soldier. We've been going strong since. We're gonna have to be creative over the next 6 weeks, but
I think it's going to
um,
be a lot of fun. I think it's going to be fun coming up with topic ideas and just kind of more general riffing with no real outline to the episode, a much more chill vibe. I'm excited for it.
I agree. I am too. As much as I like talking about the shows, and as excited as I am for Hawkeye and Book of Boba Fett and everything else coming out next year, this is going to be a good
Hmm.
break from all that too. So,
Yeah.
um, shoot, man, let's just start it off. What's your number 29?
Okay. Number 29, Hulk. I don't think that's a huge surprise.
No.
Yeah. And well, I would say, I say this always with Marvel. There's not a bad one on the list. It's all right. It's not bad. All of these movies, all of these shows are things that if you said, hey, let's watch this just on a random given day, I don't have anything to do, I'm going to watch it. Like Hulk is not terrible, but it is the bottom of this list.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was having a conversation with my friend Matt. Shout out to Matt, listener of the show. Love you, buddy. He and I were kind of talking about Marvel, and he made a really good statement that Marvel's floor is just really good, and I think that
Yes. Yes.
there's no bad in Marvel. There's just good, really good, great, and amazing. And so
Yeah.
Hulk is my 29 as well.
Okay.
It happens so early on, right? So it's like there's not a lot of crossover with the other stuff at the time. Obviously,
Right.
Edward Norton didn't last. They recast him the next time you see the Hulk.
Hmm.
It's I think the one Marvel movie you can completely skip watching if you're going to do a rewatch
Hmm.
because again, there's really no impact on anything else in the entire universe. So it's
Hmm.
um, far and away better than the Ang Lee, Eric Bana movie from 2003. But
I that's a movie I've not watched since 2003 either.
Same,
I never watched that movie.
There's no way. So it's definitely better than that. But it's just it compared to the rest of the MCU, it's not that great.
Yeah. And I think that the way that they continued to do Hulk without doing Hulk movies with Mark Ruffalo and Mark Ruffalo and just having him be a character in movies with bigger characters. I mean, they do great. I mean, he's in all the Avengers movies, Thor Ragnarok. All of his appearances are so good.
Oh yeah.
It's just hard to make him the star of the show, I think.
At this point, though, I think you could get away with it, and I think that because of all of the work they've done up to date with Mark Ruffalo and how important he's been to the MCU, and he had that spoilers, he had that cameo at the very very end of Shang-Chi in the mid-credit scene, and I think he is due his own solo movie, and obviously he'll pop up in She-Hulk, which I'm looking forward to as well. But I think at this point you could get away with a Hulk movie where it's not. The whole story in that movie was he gets angry. How do we keep him from getting angry? Whereas now he's got more control over it, and so it's more like
it's a more dynamic character now.
There's a lot more layer to it. So I think they could get away with it.
It'd be interesting to see. I'd be down.
Yeah,
I'd be a little nervous for him, but I think it would be good.
If anybody could pull it off, it's the MCU.
For sure. All right, next on my list, Thor: Dark World.
Same.
I thought you were gonna say that.
Yeah, I have a feeling our bottom 5 is going to be pretty similar.
It's not. I can tell you right now, it's not.
All right, we'll see.
So, I mean, the reason I put Thor: Dark World towards the bottom, I mean, it's very forgettable. I mean, I know that it has to do with an Infinity Stone. It's important. There are good scenes. There are good lines. But the story's super forgettable. The villain kind of sucks, in my opinion. Is very forgettable. I don't even know his name.
The Dark Elf, yeah.
The Dark Elf played by Malekith, played by Chris Eccleston, one of the one of the doctors from Doctor Who. He does a pretty good job, but I mean, he doesn't have a whole lot of lines, and I feel like his place in the story is very, very forced and I just didn't care for it.
I agree. I think that he's probably the weakest villain in the whole MCU. The best part about the movie really is the beginning of the redemption for Loki. And the whole, will he turn on Thor? Will he be by his side? And, obviously when they had that scene where he cuts his hand off and you're like, oh, that's typical Loki, he screwed him over. And then turns out that he actually is still on his side and that was a plan. It was kind of the beginning of what we would see in Ragnarok, of them working together more. And so that was a bright spot for me. I do enjoy that dynamic. But yeah, it's another one of those movies that when I do a rewatch, I'm like, all right, I guess it's time to watch Dark World. It's not bad. It's fine. The early Thor movies were just not as good as Ragnarok and everything we've seen with him in bigger
I'm wondering if there's a causality there. I wonder if Thor: Dark World had been a little bit better, if it had done a little bit better and more respected, if Thor Ragnarok would have kind of fallen in line with that movie. Because I feel like Thor Ragnarok and Thor: Dark World are just like tonally, they're polar opposites. And I love Ragnarok. I think it's great.
Same. Yeah, it's very high on my list. So, I think that he was Chris Hemsworth is even considering not returning until they had hired Taika Waititi to direct Ragnarok, and so
really
brought in a completely different tone, right, to Ragnarok and a whole different shift to that character, and it was a different challenge for Hemsworth to play. He still had a little bit of a comedic effect, but it was more leaning into that in Ragnarok. We'll get to that later on, obviously, but I think that was a whole thing that he was considering not coming back.
Do you happen to know if he's involved in the next one, Thor: Love and Thunder?
I believe he is. I'm pretty sure he is.
Awesome. I think that's a good move. I think that's a really good move.
Absolutely.
All right, let's move along. And this is where I think our lists may differ here.
Okay.
In the 20, I have these numbers wrong.
27.
27? Okay. I put Iron Man 2.
Me too.
Did you really? Oh my God. So
Oh man.
I feel like you and I are definitely on the same page with Iron Man, I guess, but I feel like people regard Iron Man 2 as a much better movie than it actually is. And then people like to shit on Iron Man 3. But I think Iron Man 3 is a much better movie than Iron Man 2.
I will say it's definitely better than Iron Man 2. Ironically enough, I think the Iron Man trilogy, save for the first one, is probably the weakest. Well, not the weakest trilogy, because the first two Thor movies aren't the best in the whole thing. But the Iron Man trilogy is kind of overrated, in my opinion.
Yeah, I can't wait to defend the first Thor.
You're not gonna have to wait that much longer. But
Yeah.
Iron Man 2, like, I don't really care for Whiplash.
He's all right. He's all right. Justin Hammer was definitely the more exciting point for me in Iron Man 2. But yeah, Whiplash is a little lackluster.
A little bit. Mickey Rourke is a really good actor and all that. And I like introducing Don Cheadle as War Machine and Rhodey. I think much better
that's
than
true.
Terrence Howard
That's
would have
true.
been.
That is his debut, isn't it?
Yeah. So it is a really good movie, but it's definitely one of the weaker MCU movies, I think. Like in terms of comic book movies compared to what we used to know in the 2000s and 90s, it's better than any of that stuff, but it's still
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, they have the cool suitcase with the Iron Man suit in the suitcase. I mean, obviously now we've got, nanobots and all the different kind of suits, but that was really cool at the time to see that. I mean, even in the first Iron Man, when he's walking out on the balcony and the suit's just like forming to his body, he's got all these robots putting the suit on and together. All that stuff is super cool. Iron Man is so cool, but yeah, seeing the evolution of it is really neat.
It is, and I'm glad you brought up the suitcase scene, because that's probably the coolest scene in the whole movie for me.
He's got like an emergency Iron Man suit.
Yeah, and there's like the drama of like he can't get it out to him, and he finally does. He kicks it and just like boom, real quick, and yeah, that's one of the cooler MCU scenes for sure.
Yeah, sticks with the AC/DC. Yeah, sorry, we're dwelling too much. All right, 26.
26.
I have Captain Marvel.
Okay, first difference.
Okay, yeah, Captain Marvel. And I definitely need to see it again. I've still only seen it once, unfortunately, in theaters, so that might be why it's lower on my list. I remember it being pretty good, pretty interesting. This was one that came out in between Infinity War and Endgame, so that one and Ant-Man and the Wasp. So maybe my expectations were a little higher. But that is why that one ended up lower on the list. I remember Sam Jackson stealing the show. I remember him as a young Nick Fury was super, super good. I'm trying to remember other things. I don't really care for the Skrulls. I think I've said that in the podcast. I think that it makes for weird storytelling, having shapeshifters portray characters that even the audience doesn't know is different. And I think that that the Skrulls don't super work for me. I'm interested to see where it goes in the MCU, but yeah, I'm not down with the Skrulls.
They'll be heavily involved in Secret Invasion, the Nick Fury show that's coming out, I think, probably next year. So I'll be really curious to see how they do that. But I'll save my thoughts on Captain Marvel for when I actually come up on it. So I'll just say my 20. Is that all you have to say on Captain Marvel?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
Now this
20s.
Yeah, okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Go ahead. My 26 is Iron Man 3.
Okay. It's a little higher for me. Do you want to talk about Iron Man 3?
Yeah. I'll justify it at least.
Sure.
Again, obviously I do think it is better than Iron Man 2. My one gripe, and Shang-Chi came out and they kind of righted the wrong here a little bit, but the whole Mandarin stuff, because it's so good, like those scenes with Ben Kingsley, and he's like, a son Greek Colorado, and I did that. Like, he's so good.
Yeah.
And then they just pull it out from under the rug, and it's like, oh man, like you had something so great, and that was just such an off-putting thing for me that it kind of ruined it a little bit. But it is a good movie, man. I like the dynamic with him and the kid. The whole Pepper
Mhm.
stuff is pretty cool, and she actually gets to, save the day at the end was pretty fun. And but it's
What was
still
really
just like,
cool about the Mandarin and having all those like recorded speeches was that they could use those sound clips in the trailer and make it so like foreboding and intimidating. It was really it set the tone for that movie. And then when they switched it, when they flipped it on its head and showed you that he was just an actor, I think that
it's
a lot of people
jarring.
hated that.
Yeah.
It was jarring. I didn't hate it because I did really like Extremis. I was a fan of Extremis. I was a
Mm.
fan of Aldrich Killian. I thought that story was really good. If I had been more of a comic book fan and more of a Mandarin fan, I probably would have been really disappointed. So I get
Yeah.
it. I definitely get it.
I will say that, yeah, I do like Aldrich as a villain. That
Hmm.
whole story he was probably one of the better early on villains, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I think that I enjoy this movie a lot more now than I did then. But at the time,
Okay.
oh man, it really bummed me out when they did that. So that's
Hmm.
my 26.
This was also one of the Marvel movies in the early stretch of Marvel movies where I worked at the movie theater. So I had
Oh
like
wow.
if I got off work and I had some time to kill or I didn't have anything to do, I could just go watch Iron Man 3 again. So I
Yeah,
saw that
that's
movie a
fair.
lot in theaters, you know.
Okay.
So um let's move on to the next one because I know you're gonna have a lot to say about it probably. Number 25, is that where
25.
we're at?
Yep. 25.
I have Shang-Chi.
Wow. Oh, wow. That's
Yeah.
low. Okay, go ahead.
And like I said, man, like there, I didn't dislike the movie at all. I thought it was good. I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun going to the theaters again to see it. But you know, putting it on a list, that's to me, that's just where it belongs. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't for me, it wasn't anything groundbreaking. It wasn't anything new. It was a late origin story, which is hard to pull off, and I think they did a good job of that. And I think that was one of their biggest strengths. But yeah, I don't think it left a huge impression on me. Honestly, when I think about it, all I can think about is how funny Aquafina is. I really like Aquafina.
She was a pretty good spot in it. I'll save my thoughts on it until I get to my spot. It's going to be much higher than you think it's going to be,
Hmm.
I think.
Hmm.
But man, hey man, that's your opinion, and that's cool,
Also,
man.
okay. Also, I will say, and I always go to a movie prepared. I never get up to go use the bathroom. It like at the movies. I had to pee so bad
Oh,
during Shang-Chi, and I was like, I tried to calculate it. I was like, okay, I kind of know where this is going. I'll go to the bathroom. I'll come back. I'll ask Kimmy what happened. And when I came back into the movie theater, Wong was leaving through a portal, and I was like, "No, I missed the whole Wong scene." So I still
oh
haven't.
no.
I've only seen the movie one time. I still have not seen the Abomination Wong stuff.
Oh man. Well, I'm sure it'll be on Disney Plus in the next couple months. So
I
it
hope
was a
so
really
because
it was a really quick scene though. I mean, there was not a whole lot that happened.
not super impactful.
No, 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 no.
Okay.
Abomination was really more just like a here you go. Here's like a fun little like throwback to the early days of the MCU.
Yeah.
There really
Yeah.
wasn't much going on in there.
Yeah.
So you didn't miss a lot.
I liked. What are some other parts that I really liked about that? I loved the end credits scene where they're bringing Shang-Chi into the fold with the Avengers a little bit. Loved that. I loved the surprise appearance of Trevor
Slattery.
Slattery.
Trevor Slattery, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That was a huge surprise. Very cool. I did not care for the weird faceless pet thing, fantasy animal thing that they have. I thought that was really weird. I could have done without that.
What did they
I'm
call what
trying.
did they call it?
I don't even remember. Like it was kind of funny, but
It was weird. It was a very Disney thing to do, I think.
yeah, yeah, that's a good way to put it. And like it was a lot to, and I'm trying not. I'm trying real hard not to shit on the movie because I did like it, but it was very jarring seeing like basically a buddy comedy movie with Shang-Chi and Aquafina at the beginning, and then they're fighting a dragon in Act 3. So not that can't happen in a movie, because it obviously can, and it did work, but it's a little weird. It was just a little far-fetched.
All right. Well, I'll save my defense until
Okay. Perfect.
until it's my turn to talk about Shang-Chi, and I reveal it on my list. But
Okay.
my
Perfect.
25 is
Yeah.
going to be the first Thor.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm very excited to defend Thor,
Okay.
because it's much higher on my list.
Wow. I think it was. I remember. So obviously we live in different towns than we used to, and we were.
Yeah.
This came out, I think, the year we graduated high school.
Yep.
And you were working at the theater, and that was our thing, right? We would always go
Yep.
to movies because you could get us in for free. And so, like,
Yeah.
3 or 4 of our other friends also worked there. You bastards went without me, and I didn't get to see it in theaters. So that
You didn't see Thor in theaters? I didn't know that.
Nope.
No.
You guys went without me.
Oh my God. You know what? At the time, I'm sure that was, because I was seeing everything. I was seeing everything with everybody, and I knew that a Marvel movie would be something that I would want to see again. So
Wow.
I'm sure that I gave no thought to, like, yeah, I'll see it with you. I'll see it with you. And didn't even think about it.
10 years ago. I'm over it. But so
Yeah.
I never saw it in theaters, so I had to see it on DVD or whatever. And so, like, that probably had an impact on how much I liked it. I feel like when I rewatch it, I'm like, this is a lot better than I thought, or that I remember it being. It's just, he spent so much time without the hammer, and they're going through that whole story, and I can't get over his damn eyebrows and how
I already want to defend it so bad.
Oh, it's so bad. And Loki is phenomenal. But yeah, they spend a lot of time with him on Earth and hanging out with Jane. And not that Jane's awful. Jane's a really charming character. I like Jane a lot. I guess it just doesn't do a whole lot as a movie. And because Ragnarok is so good and so different, as we already talked about, from the early Thor movie, it's like, I kind of wish this is just what we got all along. Like, I just don't think they did a good enough job in making Thor an interesting person until way later. And so
Ragnarok is so good that you don't miss Jane.
Well, she's coming back, and I'm actually looking forward to it. So
yeah, oh yeah, me too. But Ragnarok is, yeah. No, I get it. I get your ranking. I'm biting my tongue a lot because I have a lot of positive things to say about Thor. But we'll get to it.
That's all right, man. That's all right. What's your 24?
Number 24 is Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, it was fine. I've seen it maybe 2 or 3 times. If I watched it right now, I'm sure there are scenes that I've forgotten. But yeah, I remember it being pretty funny. The quantum realm was interesting. Michelle Pfeiffer as the original Wasp was great. I think she was cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, but other than that, it did not leave a big lasting impact. I think when I think of that movie, the one thing that really, really stands out to me is one of the post-credit scene that is, mid-snap.
Yeah.
And you see how that impacts characters that were not there. That was pretty interesting. I liked that a lot.
That was really cool. I'll save my thoughts on it in total whenever I get to it. We've got a while before I get to it, I'll be honest, because I really liked Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yeah.
I think, but I will say this about it, that you mentioned when you talked about Captain Marvel, it just comes at a really weird place where Infinity War had just happened. All you could think about is Endgame, right? And so those 2 movies really suffer from taking place where they do. But that's fair.
Agreed. In my mind, I try to separate it, but it's really, honestly, it was pretty recently. I mean, it was only like 2 or 3 years ago. So, I mean,
it might age better for you in 5 years or so.
Yeah, I think, next time, now that Infinity War and Endgame have been a few years, next time I watch Ant-Man and the Wasp, that's not going to be like fresh in my mind and all I can think about while I'm watching it. So maybe I'll respect it a lot more.
Exactly.
All right.
24.
What's your?
My 24 is my first Phase 4 property, and I got Wanda Vision.
Ooh, okay.
I do like it. I enjoyed watching it week to week. It was the first show on Disney Plus for Marvel. I think that it ends really well, and I'm really curious to see where they go with her, and I'm excited for for her to pop up in Multiverse of Madness.
Mhm.
I think that my gripes with it, the first 3 episodes, they're not skippable because you kind of need to know that there's this whole world going on. But man, they're just like, there's just not anything story related going on. Especially the first 2 episodes, you're just kind of like, this is a sitcom. I don't really know what this is.
Yeah.
And then of course I don't know if I can forgive them for Ralph Boner. I mean, I don't know if that's like the most offensive thing Marvel has ever done for me, because
Okay.
full disclosure to our listeners, I love the X-Men. I mean, I am a
Yeah.
massive X-Men fan.
Yeah.
And when they have that episode where Evan Peters comes on and they call him Pietro, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh my
Yeah.
God,
Finally.
the multiverse is here. Like, they're finally crossing over, and like you're like, how are they going to explain it? Is this just like a small tease? What's happening? And then they go around and they're like, oh, he's just some guy. And it's like, you didn't need to do that. You just didn't.
They didn't.
You did not need to do that at all.
That was a weird tease. I will give you that.
It was very unnecessary, I thought. But it is good. I love Elizabeth Olsen. I thought the range she showed as far as like all the emotions that she was able to display was great. Paul Bettany, I couldn't say enough about him. He's awesome. Really curious to see where they go with White Vision. They introduced Sword. They introduced Monica Rambeau, who will be in the Marvels.
They dove into Sword. They teased it a little bit, and then it was just here. It was full on. Yeah, and I hope that they do more stuff with Sword too.
I think they will. I hope they do. And they also tease the Skrulls a little bit as well. So I think it did a lot. And I think another thing that I will say about it, it was the first thing post-COVID. We were still in COVID very much, but like 2020 was supposed to be the beginning of like, Black Widow was supposed to come out, Eternals, we were supposed to get all the shows are going to come out. And like, this is the first thing since Spider-Man Far From Home. And it was like, we're finally going to see the post-Endgame MCU. And I didn't really feel like we got a true MCU property until we got to Falcon and Winter Soldier.
I was actually about to say that. I think that Falcon and the Winter Soldier was the first thing that really, like, I mean, I know Spider-Man Far From Home takes place afterwards, but I feel like we don't really get a grip on what the world is like for people. I mean, like he was gone. I don't know. This is hard to describe, because like when something so huge happens in this universe, such as like, the snap, and then post Endgame, like everything's back to normal. It's like I mean, it's kind of like the same thing with our world with COVID. Like there's a new normal. Yeah. And it's in both with, how the world's going and with how the MCU is going. It's hard to gauge where we're at with, new normal.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so like they touched on it briefly in Spider-Man, but they kind of got on with it, and they focused more on the loss of Tony than the loss of everybody. Right. So we'll get to that later, but
which, all deserved, super deserved. Like,
oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We don't need to spend a ton of time though. Wanda Vision's good, but yeah, it's a little bit lower, and I think you might have it. But.
Yeah. All of the shit, like Loki, What If, and Wanda Vision, all kind of take place not in their own universe, but in their own segregated little box, and Falcon and the Winter Soldier takes place in the thick of it,
Yes, absolutely.
So,
absolutely. All right, man, what's your 23?
23, let's see, is Avenger. No, I'm sorry. I have Loki. I put Loki as 23.
Okay, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, Loki was. I have complicated feelings on Loki. Like I wanted to love it. There was a lot to like. The characters that they introduced were super good. I was hanging on the end of every episode, but the way that it wrapped up to me was a little bit disappointing. Still excited for season 2, just in a different way.
That's fair. I'll save my thoughts on it, obviously, again, for when I come up on it. But
okay.
I did not expect you to have it very high. Just conversations we've had.
So what's your 23?
You're gonna hate this. Black Widow.
No,
Black
I
Widow.
don't. I don't hate it. I get it.
It's good. It's
Yeah.
a good movie, and I love Scarlett.
Hmm.
And I thought this was her best performance as Natasha Romanoff. Black Widow had its moments. I really like introducing Yelena Belova. Get to see Red Guardian's fun. It is cool to see Taskmaster on the screen, even though it's not a traditional Taskmaster. I didn't really like
Yeah,
that
I know you
swerve.
weren't crazy about Taskmaster.
Yeah, I didn't really love the swerve there. It was fine. It was good. I think that we've talked about it. We did a review on the movie. I think that it would have been better had it come out in its actual place
I
in the
agree.
timeline and not
Hmm.
so far after. Because I mean, like, this is before Infinity War, and by the time we get it, it's post Endgame, right? So
Yeah.
it's just in a weird spot. I probably would have liked it a lot more. I haven't watched it since I saw it the first time, so maybe I'll like it a little bit more in a second watch.
Hmm.
But it's just good. It's a good movie. It is good.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I don't want to talk too much about it because I have it a little bit higher on my list.
Sure, that's fine.
Um,
You go with your 22.
yeah, my 22 is Avengers Age of Ultron, which
Okay.
every time I watch this movie, I like it more, I will say.
Yeah.
After like seeing it in theaters for the first time, I was pretty let down because I was very, very hyped up at that time. This would have been 2014, 2015, somewhere around
15.
there.
15, yeah.
Yeah, so that's riding off the tails of some of my favorite MCU movies, which I don't want to say which which ones, but I think that
Yeah,
But
yeah,
you
yeah.
you watch those movies and then you get ready for the team up, which is supposed to be that much better. And
Yeah.
I don't think that it was. I think that they did a good job introducing Ultron, but unfortunately, the Avengers did a good job of killing Ultron and yeah, putting that to bed. Um, so I don't know. It's fine. It's got a lot of memorable scenes. It's got that really, really good scene with Thor's hammer and everybody trying to pick it up.
That's great.
That's super good. The Stan Lee cameo was super good, where he's getting drunk off of Thor's Asgardian booze.
That was
That's
great.
super
Yeah, I forgot
good.
about that. Yeah. He's like,
There's also
give it here.
yeah, they introduce Wanda and Pietro, and yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good things about the movie, but yeah, I think it is the weakest Avengers movie, and unfortunately, it falls kind of low on the list.
That's fair. Mine's actually a lot higher than I expected it to be. So I'll, once we get there,
Okay,
I'll see if I can justify having it so high. You'll probably be
yeah,
surprised
what
at how high it is, but
really? Okay,
yeah.
I'm excited to hear about it. What's your 22?
My 22 is Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel.
Okay,
So
yeah,
I do like it, and I'm sure there's this like pocket of Captain Marvel / Brie Larson fans that I see on Twitter that, if they're listening, I am sorry. I know that you love defending this movie, and I think that it gets a lot more hate than it deserves.
mm-hmm.
I think, like we touched on, it comes at a really awkward place where it's right before Endgame. But every time I watch it, I'm like, okay, this is pretty good. I will say that because of how powerful she is, you have to handcuff her as they did. But you're
Mm-hmm.
also kind of left like, I wish we would have got more of that earlier
Mm-hmm.
on instead of, seeing her, as she puts it, with one arm tied behind her back. But then, of course, the scene where she finally does break free and they've got Nirvana, Come As You Are, and all that playing in
Mm-hmm.
the background, like that's really fun. I like the 90s flair quite a bit. The blockbuster stuff is pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah,
Like you touched on, Sam Jackson is great. Yeah, I think the
mm-hmm.
buddy cop dynamic between him and Captain Marvel is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I did really like it. It's an introduction movie that comes at a really awkward time for me. I almost would have
Functionality wise, I feel like it does a really good job of making Captain Marvel friends with the people of Earth / Shield /
yeah,
just Nick Fury in general, so that he can have her as a secret weapon up his sleeve. I think
yeah.
that like the functionality of this movie is spot on. It's perfect, but the content is okay. It's pretty good.
I agree. But that's really all I have to say about it. It's a good movie. It's just not one of the better ones. I am looking forward to the sequel when they have Monica
Yeah,
Rambeau and Miss Marvel in it as well, though.
yeah, me too. It sounds like it's going to be really good.
I agree. What do you got for 21?
All right, 21. This one was a hard one to place because I haven't seen it in a while, but I put Black Panther for
Okay.
21. I remember the action sequences being really good. The dialogue with Chadwick Boseman is amazing. I think that he steals scenes, man. He's
Mm.
so he's just he's great. But yeah, it didn't. This was another one, much like Avengers: Age of Ultron. They did a really good job of introducing a very interesting villain, but then they kill him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's such a bummer.
Yeah, it's I've got it definitely higher than you do. But I get why you have it low. I think it's one of those ones that unfortunately kind of gets a little bit overhyped as like
Mm-hmm.
a top 5 or 10 Marvel movie. And if that's where you have it, that's totally up to you and your opinion, and that's totally fine. I love the world. I love the character. I'll
Mm-hmm.
talk more about it when I get to mine, but I can see why you have it so low.
Yeah, I mean it's a good movie. There's no wrong
Nothing wrong
opinions
with it.
with these rankings, but yeah, it didn't leave a huge impression with me. I should watch it again. It's been a while since I've watched it.
Yeah, yeah, for
So
sure.
what's your number 20?
My 21, you mean?
21, sorry.
21. My 21 is What If, actually.
What
21
if?
is What If.
Okay.
Had a lot of fun watching it. It was so much better than I thought it was going to be. I had a hell of a time reviewing it with you, I think, every week. I think it was some of the
Mm-hmm.
best podcasts we've done.
Mm-hmm.
Really interesting scenarios and different, takes on these characters, and ultimately ended in a really great way. And I'm really excited for season 2. But kind of like you said, it exists really on its own.
Yeah.
I've heard that we will see Strange Supreme in Multiverse of Madness next year, so that's pretty cool. I imagine we'll probably see the Watcher somewhere along the way, and Captain Carter might pop
Probably.
up, but I don't see
Yeah.
anything else happening from this in the main timeline. So
Yeah.
because of that, I just felt like its impact didn't really need it to be higher than it is.
I will say that, some of my favorite parts about What If was just reviewing it with you on the show. Like if
Same.
we weren't doing the podcast, I probably wouldn't have dedicated as much thinking time to What If. I probably would have watched the episodes and forgot them.
Yeah, I agree. Same. I agree. So, yeah. What about you? What's your number 20?
All right, number 20, I have Ant-Man, the first Ant-Man movie.
Okay.
Good movie. I've seen it several times. Um, it's so I feel like the places where Ant-Man, the first one, shines is introducing all of the cool side characters. I love Hope. I love shoot, what's his name? Michael Douglas. Hank Pym.
Hank.
I think
Yeah.
he's great. I
Yeah.
think that the scene that they did. Ooh, now I'm second guessing myself. Is it Ant-Man or Ant-Man and the Wasp when they have the flashback sequence with digitally young Hank Pym
That's in the
with all the
first one.
founding Shield members? Is that in the first one?
That's in
That's
the
a
first
great
one.
scene.
That's the first scene.
Is it? Okay, cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a
Because they
that's a
have
great
Peggy and
scene.
they have Howard Stark, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good scene. That's a really good scene.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think of his name. I wish I wasn't drawing such a blank on names. His
The
buddy
villain?
that no, his buddy, the guy who recaps all the events,
The guy played by Michael
and
Pena. Yeah. I don't
Michael
remember.
Pena. Yes, I love
Yeah.
him so much.
He
His
is a bright
character is so
spot.
good. Man, he's so good. He's so good in everything that he's in, and yeah, his character was great in this.
Yeah, yeah. I don't have that next, but it's coming up, so I'll save my thoughts on it.
Sure.
My 20 is Doctor Strange. Um,
Really, I would have guessed that was way higher.
I love Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the character. The movie is really good, and I like seeing him become Doctor Strange. And I
Hmm.
like Ancient One's great, and Wong is really fun, and
Hmm.
the Dormammu fight's really cool. It's a really interesting way to finish off the villain, in that it wasn't like he had to overpower him; he had to outsmart him. So that was really interesting. I don't love Caecilius. I get you kind of had to have somebody that you could fight
He
throughout
was
the
the
film.
he was the villain with the
Yeah, I like the
I don't even
actor
remember how to
Mads
put it.
Mikkelsen. The
Okay.
actor is really good. Yeah, I guess it suffers from having a bad villain, and by the time we see him again, he's so much further developed as Doctor Strange that
Yes.
I prefer Infinity War Endgame Doctor Strange to Doctor Strange. So we get to see him in Spider-Man this year. I'm so excited. Those are my two favorite MCU characters. And then we have his follow-up movie coming in March, I think. So I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, I think the Doctor Strange movie itself is good, just not great.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting you say that. I would have guessed it was a lot higher
Yeah,
on your list. I don't know if I'm going to surprise you right now, but that's actually my number 19 is Doctor
that's
Strange.
hilarious. Okay.
So pretty damn close with both our lists. I think the movie did it did a good job of both taking the character Stephen Strange and making us kind of despise him at the
Mm-hmm.
beginning and have him have his hero's journey, his redemption, and
Mm-hmm.
also introduce a lot of beloved side characters. Everybody loves who doesn't love Wong? I mean,
Oh,
Wong is one of the best characters in the
he is.
MCU, and he's Dormammu was interesting. I'm trying to think. Rachel McAdams was really good. Do you know if Rachel McAdams is going to be in the next one?
I believe so. Yeah,
I
I believe
hope
so.
so. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
she's
Yeah,
awesome. I love Rachel McAdams.
she
She's a
is
great actor.
awesome. Yeah. So yeah, Doctor Strange was good. The special effects are probably
Top notch.
I don't know if they're outmatched in any other Marvel movie. I mean, they just did so much work with
Yeah.
the fantastical, the moving buildings and all of the like putting magic, on screen. Literally, it was
Well,
just great.
I knew you would like that because there's shades of Inception there, and I know you're such a big fan of
Yeah,
Inception.
yeah.
So, yeah,
It was really interesting to see that.
I agree that the whole mirror world and I love the pocket of the MCU that Doctor Strange exists in. The whole mystical arts and
Hmm.
sorcerers and everything about it is great. And so yeah, I think that we both kind of have it pretty accurately ranked as far as a movie in the MCU. But
Hmm.
there's a lot to like about it for sure.
Because up until Doctor Strange, I believe every MCU movie was either science or aliens, right? I don't
Yeah,
think they had any actual magic
pretty
until Doctor
much.
Strange. I'm
Pretty
trying to think.
much.
Yeah, so that was. I mean, they did a good job with the movie,
I agree. I
and
agree.
still it ends up on the bottom half, unfortunately, which is
Just
just
speaks
a
to the
testament to how good all these movies are.
yeah, the quality of the MCU in general. Well, my 19, it's actually really funny because my 19 is Ant-Man, so we kind of had those
Oh
flopped.
wow, okay,
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
yeah,
Yeah, I really like this, man. I love Paul Rudd so much, just in general.
he's so great.
If
I think I said the other day, wow, I wish I think I said I wish I was Paul Rudd, just real casually. I don't
I
even
wish I was
remember what
Paul
we were
Rudd.
watching. I do. I wish I was Paul Rudd. He's so great. Everybody loves Paul
He
Rudd.
he's one of those actors that if he's in a movie, automatically I'm going to watch it, no matter if it's a
Yeah.
straight up comedy like I Love You Man, a superhero movie like
Hmm.
this, or a more serious role like Perks of Being a Wallflower. He was in that. Anything he's in, I'll watch. I
Yeah.
think, like you said, like the Hank Pym stuff, I really like the chemistry that those two have. Introducing
Hmm.
Hope is great. His whole like crew, Michael Pena and Ti and Kurt, who we got to see in What If, that
Yeah.
whole squad is so much fun. And
Hmm.
Yellow Jacket's he's an all right villain. I don't think there's a lot of depth to him. I do
Hmm.
like the actor. I think he's the same guy that is in House of Cards, if I'm not mistaken. Um, it's a really good movie. It's really funny. I think like you said, the Michael Pena recalling of events and the way he does
Yeah.
that is so much
So
fun and
funny.
so well done. And good point in bringing up that beginning scene with Hank and Howard Stark and Peggy Carter in those like early days of Shield.
It
That was
feels.
really
I
fun.
mean that scene specifically feels so much like a good comic book where they have like a
Yes.
page or two that's a big like flashback that introduces like some context, and then you get into kind of the action of what you're going to see. I think
Amazing
it was
point.
really good. Yeah.
Amazing point. That's a really well said. Yeah, that's exactly the way to put it. Yeah, it's so well done. But that's my number 19. What's your number 18?
Okay, next for me is Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this one was really hard to find a place for. It seems like it's been a while since I've watched it. I know it came out this year, but I mean, I feel like we burnt through it in that 6 weeks and had a really good time with it. But now I almost feel like I need to watch it again to remind myself how good it was, because it feels too low on the list. But that's where I found its home. All the characters were great. I do think that there was a little bit of a letdown with the Power Broker reveal. Seeing Sharon Carter in a different light was neat. I liked it. I'm interested in seeing where her character goes. I think there was a lot of Dark Avengers setup, which was kind of neat. It was really cool to see the MCU bring in a character that everybody loved to hate in John Walker. I think that was really neat, because I feel like you have someone like in the MCU, you get all these villains that are huge and you love them in a very special way, like Ultron, like Loki, like Thanos, even like you just like they're the bad guy, but you love them. You just end up falling in love with them because they're so cool. And then with this one, it's just like you hate everything about John Walker. You can't believe how much you hate him, but you love to hate him. And those kind of characters are really good.
Yeah. I'm not too far off from my placement of Falcon Winter Soldier, so I'll hold off. But I think you have it fairly accurately placed. It's good. And I keep wanting to rewatch it, but I'm kind of waiting until I do a full MCU binge to do it, because I feel like, anytime I watch anything from the MCU, I kind of just want to watch the rest of it. So it more makes sense to do it that way. But yeah, fair enough. My 18 is Loki, actually. I had a lot of fun with it. I thought that the first episode started off so strong, and then as it grew, it got better and better. And the dynamic between Loki and Mobius was so much fun, and Sylvie is a really interesting character. I'm excited to see more of her. When they finally get into the void and you see all the different Lokis, that was really well done. They're definitely teasing Kid Loki for a Young Avengers, as we kind of talked about. And I know you didn't like the way that it ended, but I actually did, because this was the third Marvel show. The first one, Wanda Vision, we didn't talk about it obviously, but online, and I was kind of along with them, we all were kind of expecting Mephisto to pop up in the end, and that didn't happen. And then with Falcon Winter Soldier, we were like, who's the Power Broker? Is it so-and-so? Is it Kingpin? Like, who is it? And then with Loki, like pretty much from the beginning, I was like, I think Kang is behind this. And although he wasn't named Kang, he was named He Who Remains. It was still Jonathan Majors and is a version of Kang. And this is really the way that they introduce him to the MCU. And so it was really satisfying when they walk up to the elevator and there's Kang. And you're like, oh my God, finally, we got an accurate prediction. It was fun, man. It was really well done. Seeing Loki get redeemed again is really cool. Miss Minutes was funny. I didn't love Renslayer. That was a gripe. I didn't really care for the actress that played her. But yeah,
I wanted to get into her character and ended up not really getting into it.
Same. It was like I just kept like waiting to get into her. I loved B-15 though. B-15 was a great character. Would love to see more of her. Yeah, good show. Not great. I think that's probably a fair place to put it though.
My deal with the ending is that it wasn't. It was too much cliffhanger, not enough resolution. And I know that they did that because there's going to be a season 2. But like when you think about when you look at the other shows, all three of the other shows, WandaVision, What If, and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, they leaned heavy into wrapping stuff up and then giving you a little bit extra. And I like that little bit. But this one was all cliffhanger.
It was definitely a modern show where like any show you watch that Stranger Things, Cobra Kai, whatever, like they always end in a point where you're like, I need to see more. And you're gonna make me wait a year to see more. I don't want to wait that long. I will also say that it contradicted itself a lot with the TVA stuff.
Which makes it hard to analyze.
Yeah, we've gone over that at length. But yeah, it is a good show, and who doesn't love Tom Hiddleston? Come on.
Yeah. And this one, I feel, well, I guess this one, Loki and What If both have the potential to move around on this list because they're getting season 2s.
True. That's a very good point. Yeah. You never know. So stuff ages differently after you've been able to allow it to continue on. And I'll talk about that when I get to Age of Ultron. But
yeah, after Loki season 2 comes out, I'm probably gonna, assuming that it's gonna be great because, I mean, it is Marvel, so why would we doubt it? I think it's gonna end up higher on my list.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Speaking of higher on the list, what's number 17?
Number 17 is Captain America: The First Avenger.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, I like that movie a lot. I'm surprised it's as low on the list as it is.
Same.
But we're about halfway. Yeah, we are halfway. We're at the halfway mark.
Just about,
yeah. Yeah. Great movie, good period piece. Little kid Steve Rogers, a little weird, but yeah, I mean, seeing him get turned into the world's first super soldier was great. I mean, the action sequences were great. The introduction of Bucky was really good. High points in all things. High drama, high comedy, like it was a perfect, like it was one of the early Marvel movies that really shaped how the universe turns out.
Absolutely. I have a lot of really good things to say about it. I love it, so I'll wait until it's my turn to talk about it.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at it on the list and how low it is on there. I feel like I should have more negatives to say, and I really don't. You know what I mean? Like that's just that just goes to show you how great, how great these movies are, and how it's hard to find a negative thing. I guess maybe Tommy Lee Jones could have been a stronger character. I think Tommy Lee Jones was just okay.
Tommy Lee Jones, come on!
He's eating
steak and drinking milk. Come on!
That was probably his best scene. In interrogating Zola, right?
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah.
Tommy Lee Jones.
Or the look in his eye when Steve Rogers takes the pin out of the flagpole and it falls down and he hops in the truck like he was serious, like, all right, well, let's go. Like there were just a few scenes where he was great, but yeah, I don't know. Hydra was pretty cool. Introduction to Hydra was cool. The post-credit scene where he wakes up in the future and knows it instantly because he's heard the baseball game before.
I was at that game.
Like seeing it for the first time, like it was a little eerie watching that scene, and then he walks out into Times Square and is just floored by 2012 or whatever year it was. Yeah, it was a cool scene. Great movie.
Yeah, it's a great movie. I have a lot of really positive things to say about it. So sit tight for about 10 minutes or so, folks. I'll get to it.
Okay, what do you got for your
17? Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Okay, let's hear it.
I love Ant-Man and the Wasp. I think the only gripe that I really have is Ghost, in that she's not a true villain. Starts out that way, but you really kind of sympathize with her a bit because it's like she's in this like tremendous amount of pain. So there's really not a villain in the movie in a way.
I was just thinking who the villain. I mean, she was the villain in the trailer. She's the villain in like the first and second act, but like towards the end, the movie is more about like
it's about saving Janet from the quantum realm,
from the quantum realm.
Scott back home in time to not go back to jail, to not violate parole.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I really like it though. I mean, you get more of his whole like squad of friends. Lawrence Fishburne, I love Lawrence Fishburne. So having him in there is great. You getting to see Hope as the Wasp and some of the dynamic tag team offense that they have together is really cool. It's just a great continuation for a really interesting character that, going into the first one, people probably were like, this is going to be a flop. Like, who cares about Ant-Man? All he really does is grow and shrink. That's not a big deal. But the way that they utilize that character is so creative, and it's really more of like a comedy movie than an action. It's an action comedy, I guess. But the scenes where they're like going through San Francisco and they're like shrinking the car and then blowing it up and shrinking it back down, like it's really creative, I thought, in a lot of the offense. And I do like the character Ghost. I think that if they're going to do a Dark Avengers type show or movie, she would be a great addition to that. To have
That'd
her
be kind of
with
cool.
John Walker. Yeah. So hopefully we see more of Ghost. I think that would be fun.
The thing that I love so much about Ant-Man is that you take all of the other Avengers and you take away their powers, and they were basically morally heroes before they were superheroes. But Ant-Man wasn't. He's just a dude. He's just a guy.
Just a guy, just a funny guy.
Kind of thrown into it, you know.
Yeah.
And he's great. He's a dad, you know. Like that's the kind of stuff that makes him tick. He likes to steal stuff. He likes heists, and he's a dad. And that's those are kind of underlying qualities that make Ant-Man a comedic hero rather than a serious save the world superhero.
Right, he's like really useful, especially in Endgame. But it's like he's one of the last guys you're going to call to really save the day. But he makes it work in his world, and I am beyond excited for Quantumania coming out. I think 2 years from now, it's going to be a fun one, I think.
Yeah.
What about you? What you got at 16?
16. See, I have all my numbers wrong, so hang on a second. I did Captain America. 16. I have Black Widow.
Okay.
Kind of middle of the road. And I think, it's probably higher on my list than on yours because I've seen it more times. I've watched it, I think, like 4 times in the first 2 weeks that it was out, just watching it with different friends. Because I bought it on Disney Plus. So if I was gonna spend $30 on something, I was gonna show it to everybody. So I had a lot of fun with that movie. I thought it was really good. I think there are some points in the movie where it's not great. I think honestly some of the special effects sequences, some of the like falling off of something, like the part where they're all on the flying the red room, and she jumps out the window and grabs onto a railing. It's just that, and then like jumps off of it and does a roll. Like some of those special effects sequences were not great. It was weird to see that in a post Infinity War Endgame movie, them taking the bar up to here and then just kind of dropping it down for a movie that's not got all the heroes in it, I guess.
Did you not see it in theaters?
I saw it in theaters twice, and then I watched it with friends at a friend's house once, and I showed it to I'm trying to think. I may have done a watch party and watched it with Jen online with my sister online.
I'll say this. A lot of the CGI in Marvel, I think, is meant to be seen in theaters. Okay. Because when I watch Ragnarok, I love that movie. And I'll say this about Guardians too as well. A lot of those CGI backgrounds are pretty obvious when you watch it on TV. But when you see it in theaters, it doesn't look as bad. It looks like it is correct. So I think that might be maybe that's why. I think when
the lights are off and you've got the hype of being in public in a theater, I think that you get more into
screen.
It. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've got the sound really blasting in your face. It's a vibe, man. I mean, watching movies in theaters is great.
It's a different thing, yeah. So I think that might be how because when I watch Ragnarok, I'm like, when they're on Asgard, I'm like, oh man, this is like pretty obviously CGI.
Really? Oh man,
yeah.
It's actually been a minute since I've seen Ragnarok. Maybe I'll watch it again and look for that. That's interesting.
It's still very high on my list. I can't wait to talk about it.
Yeah. Well, that's content-wise too, because like the story and the jokes and like the mood of Thor Ragnarok is on another level.
Sure, for sure. My 16 is Falcon Winter Soldier.
Okay.
So not that much higher than yours. Kind of like you said, man, it was our first thing that we talked about on this podcast. And I was watching a clip of it the other day of us talking about it, and we are so different back then to where we are now.
Really?
So it's really cool to see how how much better we've gotten at doing this, which is pretty fun.
I should watch some throwback clips.
You should, yeah, you should. I had a heck of a time watching this show. I really love the dynamic of Sam and Bucky together. I think you were spot on with John Walker. It's just the guy that you love to hate, but by the end of it, you're kind of on his side a bit. You know, you're like, I like this guy. You know,
I like this weird psycho.
Yeah, man. And I can't wait to see more of U.S. Agent John Walker.
Yeah.
That's going to be more.
Yeah.
But introducing Val. If the MCU needed anything, it was a Seinfeld character, and Julia Louis-Dreyfus is the best one. short of having George Costanza pop up.
Oh my God, George
Costanza could be MODOK or something.
Oh my God, that would be great. Jokes. Okay, totally off topic. Did you watch MODOK on Hulu?
I've only seen a few episodes. I need to finish it, but it is good.
It's so funny. It's so funny. It's got like it's its own thing too. And Patton Oswalt is so funny. I love that show. Yeah, I'll watch season 2 if they make it. I can't remember if they said they were gonna make it.
I need to finish it, but anyway. But Falcon Winter Soldier, the power broker thing was annoying, but the build up to it was a lot of fun. I'm really glad they did the Wakanda tie-in with Bucky. And then, man, when Sam is finally Captain America and you see him pop up and they're like, who are you? He's like, I'm Captain America. He's got the suit. And he's like throwing the shield around. And the offense that he has with the shield and the wings, man, I cannot wait to see more of Sam Wilson as Captain America.
Same.
I love this. I love this show. I think it's the strongest of the shows for me so far. Second highest up in Phase 4 for me. At least until Spider-Man comes out. I loved it. I had so much fun watching it.
The only complaint that I can think about with Falcon and Winter Soldier is I would have liked to see Bucky go through a little bit more than he did. I know that the show is functionality wise they do a really good job of turning Sam into Captain America, but if we had gotten to see a little bit more out of Bucky, I think it would have been.
You're just mad because Bucky didn't end up with the shield.
maybe subconsciously, yeah. But
one other thing
Zemo was great. Didn't expect that.
2 more things I want to shout out. So Zemo was awesome. That scene where he's up on the shipping containers and you see like the rise up of the camera behind him and he's like holding the mat, like that is sweet.
Intensity.
He throws it on and he's just like. We didn't see that version of Zemo in Civil War. He was more like a methodical behind-the-scenes guy. Here, he's like in the thick of it. So that was great. And then also shout out to Isaiah Bradley. That was a lot of fun to see them explore. God. And Eli Bradley, who at some point will become Patriot, and I can't wait for that. I can't wait for Young Avengers. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, there's no way they don't capitalize on Eli Bradley at some point.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, man. What do you got at 15? This is the midway point here. This is
next up. Next up for me is Iron Man 3.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Yeah. I like Iron Man 3. I probably saw it half a dozen times in theaters, so like I connected with that movie a lot. I think that his dynamic with the kid is great. I like that he identifies with the forgotten kid, the only child who kind of grows up a little reclusive. I like that dynamic. I like all the scenes where he's trying to fix his suit, where he gets stranded with no power, dragging his suit through a blizzard. I have a lot of positive things to say about Iron Man 3. I think the soundtrack is great. I like, the scenes where he doesn't have a suit and he has to like makeshift some toys with like an oven mitt and like I'm trying to remember all the gadgets he buys at the hardware store and just makes all of these weapons. Love it. I think it's a great movie.
That movie did actually do a really good job of showing the engineer side of Tony Stark.
Yes. Yeah.
And I agree with that. Yeah. And the whole scene where he's in that town with the kid and he had given him that light, and so they're like kind of teaming up together, and
that was like a flashbang.
Yeah, that was a good dynamic. It was cool they did Iron Patriot as well. That's fun.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Um,
Yeah.
and the scene too where he's got to save the president off the plane or
Yes.
something along. And then there's that part where he's got like everybody out of the plane, and he's like, "Who's
Oh,
gonna play Barrel of the
that
Monkeys?" And
that's actually my least favorite part of that movie. And I'll
oh,
tell you,
what?
I'll tell you why. It's because of one line. He says, "I'm gonna electrify your hand. You won't be able to open your hands." I'm like, what? Oh. And they have just like 10 people like holding hands, like, oh, we're not. I don't know. I feel like that scene itself is ridiculous, but the movie is great.
Logistically speaking, it does not make sense because there's some guy at the very top of that that's holding 600 pounds of people. It just doesn't make any sense. But it is still pretty cool visually.
I love seeing the evolution of where Tony Stark is mentally after saving the world from aliens and Avengers. Seeing a little PTSD side of Tony. I like seeing that he's thrown himself into his work. He's not sleeping. At the end of the movie, we see like 50 Iron Man suits that are all different in their own way. I think I have a lot to, like I said, man, I got a lot of positive things about Iron Man 3.
Now that you really like put it over as much, I think I might have it a little too low because I do think it is really good. And I think that whole sequence with all the suits is a really, really clever way to show off all those suits without having to make 50 different Iron Man movies.
And have some good suit Easter eggs from comics and stuff like that.
Yeah, I actually really like the whole how he figured out how to do the thing where he like shifts his arms and that comes to him. And so that scene where Mandarin blows up his house and Pepper is like standing there and he just like throws the suit at her to save her. Like that's a really cool sequence. And then he throws it back to himself. Like there's a lot of really cool action.
There's also the really cool scene with Rhodey where they're walking through this like shipping container yard and they don't have suits and they're trying to get to Aldrich or whatever. And they're like, basically Tony is trying to be the superhero and Rhodey's trying to be like a soldier, he's got a gun. And Iron Man or Tony like looks over something. He's like, "How many were there?" I don't know. I couldn't see anything. It's like he's too far away. Nobody could make that shot. And then Rhodey just shoots him. It's like, oh my god.
Yeah, the dynamic between those two is awesome. Yeah. And also, I will say this, all the way up until Hawkeye comes out, it is the only Christmas MCU property.
That's true. That is true.
It is a Christmas movie. You can totally watch it at Christmas time. It counts, so don't tell me otherwise, folks.
Yeah. All right. What's your 15?
15, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings.
All right, give me some positive stuff about Shang-Chi, because I feel bad for putting it like number 20. What did I put it at?
Yeah, like 25. You had it pretty low.
Yeah, pretty low.
I love this movie, man. I really like the fighting sequence alone. Like all of that, the scene on the bus where he's just like flying all over the place. Like it actually does look like a realistic way to fight in a way. And it was also like the introduction to him as this like martial artist, because up until that point, like to Awkwafina, he's just this guy that he's a valet driver. This guy, and she's like, you don't know how to fight, and he's just bam, bam, bam. It's like this crazy stuff.
Swinging around on the hand holding railing.
Yeah, and then there's that scene where they're on the scaffolding, and he's flying around that. And I will say, I don't remember the name of the place that they have to go to where his mom is from.
I don't remember it either.
I had a lot of Wakanda vibes, which was a bit of a gripe for me, because it's like, okay, this is just like Chinese
secret.
Wakanda. Yeah, it's like
secret Chinese Wakanda.
Inside, they have their own technology and their own weapons, and it's a good way to explain that, at least, that like there's not just this stuff that exists in places, But I thought they did a great job establishing him as a legit hero. I like that Phase 4 has been about more grounded heroes, right? Like Endgame was so big and so huge. You kind of had to bring this back to the roots a little bit and take some time to really establish these new characters, especially with Steve Rogers is gone, Tony Stark is gone. Natasha's gone. We're probably going to see the last of Hawkeye and Hawkeye coming up. So a lot of these like mainstays are leaving. So you're gonna have to bring some people in and really reestablish some new heroes. And I thought they did a really good job with Shang-Chi.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that it is weird that he has the 10 rings because that was never, at least to my knowledge, that was never his story. And the 10 rings are also different in this than they are in the comic books. You know, the comics, you actually wear them and they have individual powers. Here they go on his forearms, and you know, they are cool. The fighting sequences with the 10 rings are awesome, I thought. You said it, the Trevor stuff is really fun. I was kind of expecting him, but when he popped up, it was still like, oh.
Were you really? You expected him?
I did, because of that short that they released on Disney Plus.
I've still not watched it. I've still not seen it.
They've had that since Thor Dark World. That was a special feature on the DVD for Thor Dark World. So that's been out for years. So I knew he was out there. I need to watch it. And yeah, the 10 rings interact with him in that short. So I knew he was going to be involved somehow. And it was a lot of fun to see him. And you know, Ben Kingsley. Who doesn't love Ben Kingsley? He just
I know. He's so good.
Yeah, he brings so much to the table on that. So I enjoyed this. It was my favorite thing from Phase 4 so far. But again, we still have quite a bit to dive in on that.
Yeah, that's true. All right, man. Would this be 14? I have Guardians 2. Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Great movie. I had hoped that this one would be as impactful as the first one. And so I don't feel like super let down, I do find myself, you know, wanting to watch the first Guardians more than I would want to watch the second Guardians. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, Ego was cool. I love Kurt Russell. I love, you know, the dramatic revelation that he was behind killing Peter's mother. Like, that was very dramatic and cool. Baby Groot was okay. I don't think I liked Baby Groot as much as I like regular or teenage Groot. I think that he's bottom tier as far as Groots go, but still enjoyable. Trying to think of, like, Mantis was good, but not. I don't think Mantis makes the Guardians of the Galaxy better. Does that make sense?
Fair. She played her part with Thanos, but yeah, I mean, in terms of like a Guardians centric fight, like,
like if she wasn't around in the next Guardians of the Galaxy, I don't even think I'd miss her. To be honest with you, I feel like that makes it sound like I don't like her, and I do, but like I just don't. I think that she served her purpose in the movie and was interesting and had some good lines with Drax and everything. But yeah, I don't love her character or anything.
She has a very niche power.
Yeah.
And yeah, like any of the other characters, Star-Lord, Drax, Gamora, Rocket, they all can be in a battle, right? They can all, if they have to, maybe not Rocket, but they can all throw hands, right? If you had to. Whereas, yeah, Mantis, like, you're never going to see Mantis fight a Chitauri or something. I guess you could put him to sleep. She's a very niche power, and that's not my next one, but it's pretty close. So I'll save my thoughts on it for a couple more minutes.
All right, what do you have for 14?
I had Black Panther.
Okay.
Man, you said it. They introduced a really cool character with Killmonger. Really wish he didn't have to die, but it was really cool to see him pop back up in What If and see more of that. Man, Chadwick was the perfect T'Challa.
Yeah.
You couldn't have asked for a better one. You know, obviously you're sad that the man passed away at such a young age. But you know, on a very, 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 very selfish level, him passing away, leaving that such of a void in Black Panther, it really is sad. But yeah,
it makes future Black Panther projects very challenging. Like, how do they compete with Chadwick? I mean, he made that movie, man.
He did. Although I will say, one gripe I have is I think that it was, the first half was focused more on him, and the second half was more focused on Killmonger.
Killmonger, yeah.
Right, and so like I would have liked to see most of it be focused on Chadwick and on T'Challa. So that's the only thing I would say on that.
I think the only
But
reason that it wasn't that way is because he was introduced in Civil War first. Like they didn't do like a super in-depth introduction, but
right.
I feel like that's why they got away with having less of his story, less of an origin story in this one because he was introduced earlier.
Right. Yeah, he got a lot of shine in Civil War, but
Yeah.
I love the world of Wakanda. It's so cool. It's so imaginative. Shuri is an interesting character. Okoye is an absolute badass. The gadgets, the suit, man. What else can you say? It's just a really fun movie. I haven't watched it in a while. I feel like I need to sit down with it again. It's
Yeah.
kind of middle of the road. You know, it's a solo movie. By the time it came out, we had already had a couple of Avengers movies. It was the last one before Infinity War. So I felt like it was kind of an awkward spot because my hype for Infinity War was so high.
Oh my God.
But it's still so good. It's a great movie. And I am cautiously optimistic that Black Panther 2 will be a pretty good movie too. We'll see how they handle that.
Yeah, I'm very interested.
Yeah.
Can you hear me okay? I took one of my AirPods out because I just got the notification that my AirPods were at 20%. So I took one of them out. It's in the charger. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you perfectly fine, yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Next on my list, I guess number 13. Is that where we're at?
13, yeah.
Yeah, I put What If. I have What If as number 13. I thought that it is high. I thought it was great. The way that they wrapped up impressed me a lot. I really didn't expect to be floored by, an all out, team up of the characters that we were getting. I didn't expect, I don't even think I knew Ultron was gonna be in What If, and then he ended up being the main villain of the show. I thought that they handled it really well. I think that it was really exciting knowing that they were going to put out a little teaser the day before the episode, and after the episode aired, they're going to do character posters or whatever.
Yeah.
I just think the marketing was genius. I really liked What If. I thought it was a blast.
Yeah, you said it best, man. Just impressed. I talked about it. I did not think that I was going to enjoy it as much as I did, and the way it was done, how they start off with these individual episodes. You think like, okay, that was fun, and I'm looking forward to seeing what next week's is. And then by the time we get to that Thor episode, and you saw Ultron at the very end, and it was like a legit cliffhanger, you're like, oh, this is building to something. Oh, yeah. Okay. And so it was like, wow, this was like, I really thought it was just going to be like watching Hey Arnold, like there's just like individual different episodes that don't tie in together, and I thought that was kind of.
But it makes so much sense after the fact when you look at it too, that this would be a team up. Yes, they did so good at introducing all these characters on their own, and then putting them together just made so much sense.
Very well written, very well done. Very impressed. A little sad we didn't get that Gamora episode, but it's coming. I guess.
Yeah. It's coming. That's a good way to look at it, because I think it's going to be really cool.
It'll be a banger for sure.
All right, what do you got?
My lucky number 13 is Guardians 2.
Okay.
Guardians 2, man. Man, who doesn't love Guardians? And we'll talk about this when we finally get to the Guardians 1, but people were predicting that to be the flop of the MCU, right? People thought that was going to be
the first one, you mean?
Yeah. And so Guardians 2, I felt like was a legit good follow-up. I mean, it's not as good as the first one. It's not. And I do agree, Mantis is not as interesting as the rest of the group, but all the dynamics are still there. Drax and his very dry humor and his deadpan delivery, and Star-Lord and seeing him interact with Ego, and that whole story was a lot of fun to watch unfold. I liked Baby Groot. I don't know. I think the whole thing where he's like, you twist this and press that button. And he's like, not that button, this button. He's like, who's got tape? You got any tape? Who's got tape? Yeah. No, we don't have any tape. He's like, why doesn't anybody have tape? You have a bomb. Why don't you have tape? Like, it's just the whole thing is hilarious. Taserface is ridiculous. Yondu and Rocket and Groot escaping the ship, and he's whistling, and the arrow is going all. That is one of the coolest scenes. That arrow going all over the ship, and they're
just walking out in slow motion. Yeah.
looking around, and he's just, you know, that's one of my all-time favorite MCU themes. Watching that in theaters, I was like, oh my god, this is insane. Yeah,
Yondu was cool, man.
It's a fun movie. Like I said, watching it on regular TV and not theaters, like particularly on Ego, some of the CGI is like, I don't know. It's a little obvious. So that not a detractor, but it's a bit of an eyesore in a way. But you know, the whole thing with Yondu coming down and he's like,
Mary Poppins,
Mary Poppins. Who's Mary? Is he cool? Hell yeah, he is. I'm Mary Poppins, y'all. And they've got the whole team up, circle around at the end, and yeah, man, I love Guardians too.
Yeah. I have to move, and everything's dying on me. My iPad's dying now. We're going long with this one. I thought this would be a lot shorter.
I told you it was going to be a long one, man.
Yeah, no, this is fun.
We probably spent 7 minutes talking about the Hulk, and I should have told you right there.
Yeah, I'm having a blast with this.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, I'll say like where I'm at with, let me see if this will work. Where I'm at right now with Eternals feels a lot like where I was with Guardians before it came out. So I really hope I'm surprised in the same way.
I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised. I think we all will, because I don't have high hopes for Eternals, but I feel like it will deliver. I feel like it will be good. We'll just see where it lands on the ranking system.
Yeah.
All right, man. What do you got with 12?
I've got the OG Avengers 2012. Great movie. It's such a classic. You know, it's weird to say that it's a classic because it seems like, you know, I mean, just like with a lot of stuff that we were talking about earlier, it seems like it was yesterday, and it also seems like it was 1,000 years ago. I really loved the first Avengers movie, but so many movies have topped it in a great way. You know, this movie really paved the way for a lot of really good movies. And I respect the hell out of the first Avengers movie.
It was such an ambitious project. Nothing like it had ever been done. The idea that they could bring together 6 heroes, 4 of which had their own movie, and give them proper screen time and have it be a good, compelling story seemed like almost an impossibility. And so there was a narrative around it where people were kind of like, this might not be good, but it'll still be fun, right?
Yeah.
And oh my God, I can't wait to get to it myself. But yeah, it holds up, man. It really does.
Yeah. I mean, they make you, because there was no Black Widow movie at the time. There's no Hawkeye movie at the time, and then you put them with no powers on a level with superheroes, right? And you make the audience care just as much about their screen time as everybody else's. Like it was, I don't know how. I mean, obviously there's, you know, crazy big teams of writers and idea makers and everything, but like it was a very, very ambitious thing for them to do, and I think they did it perfectly. Yeah.
It also, I don't want to give too much away, but it also like it set the tone for the MCU movie, because there's so many like funny one-liners and cool moments that is like the formula now. You know, the whole like that man is playing Gallagher. Didn't think we noticed, but we did. You know, and the whole like Hulk smashing Loki, you know, puny god. And, yeah,
you've got Iron Man. You've got Stark asking Steve Rogers, you know, what's it look like in there? I don't know. It looks like it runs on some sort of electricity. Like this movie really it forms the way that these characters interact, you know, in movies to come, and it's so good.
It does, yeah. I won't say much more because I got it coming up.
Okay, not let's move forward. What's your number 12?
Avengers Age of Ultron, actually.
Okay, let's talk about it.
So I will say this, man. This was at a point where I was not going to the movies to see the Avengers movies, because I was just really broke at the time. I didn't have the money.
Yeah, and all of us, all your friends had stopped working at the movie theater, so it was a little more challenging to all get together. And I think is that around the time you moved?
I had already moved. I had been here for 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah, I moved to Colorado in 2013. So
okay.
I had missed it in the theaters, and so it had been a while until I actually got to it. And so I didn't have because I know the whole thing, like the trailer, is so ominous. They have that like No Strings on Me playing, and like you feel like Ultron is going to be this like insane villain, and you get
kind of that same tone that you get with
Iron Man
with
3.
Trevor with the Mandarin from Iron Man 3.
Yeah. So they kind of, so I think a lot of people had that gripe with it, but I never had that letdown. You know, so the first time I had seen it, it actually had been well after that. It probably was like a year or so after the fact. I loved it, man. And the more I watch it, like you said, the more that I love it even more. I think the fact that it happens so much later in the MCU, you've already had all the individual movies, you've already had the big team up. Then you get to this, it's like you can just seamlessly jump into an Avengers movie to the point where I feel like they can just kind of do that now too. Like Avengers 5 doesn't have to be this big like Infinity War style thing. They could just be like, here's Avengers 5, and it would just make sense, I feel like. So I really will give them credit for that. And there was no drop off. You could just jump right into it. Love Wanda, love Vision, even though he dies, love Pietro. And then WandaVision, the show, and getting to see a little bit more of them be a part of Hydra, I think strengthens Age of Ultron even more in a lot of ways. So I think that how you think you'll like Loki season 1 a bit more after season 2 comes out, that's why I felt like WandaVision treated Age of Ultron. I think that the benefit of that show, it makes this movie that much more enjoyable. So
it's weird thinking that I put it so low on my list, and also there's so much good about it. Like there's so, like, they introduce characters, they have great scenes. It's like I said, like the best way that I can put a bow on my feelings of Age of Ultron is that it just gets better with every watch.
And I mean, it has the unfortunate place of being after the first Avengers movie and before Infinity War and Endgame, right? And so all three of those are so ambitious on their own. This one's just like a nice MCU movie, but you get the benefit of having everybody in it. I will say that I don't love the Bruce Banner Natasha love interest.
You're not into that?
Nah, I just didn't really feel like it made sense because like there's so many moments in Cap Winter Soldier where it feels like there's a thing between Steve and Natasha, and so this was just kind of like out of left field almost in a way. And
I really love. Go ahead.
I was just saying they just never followed. There was like that one brief moment in Infinity War, and they just never followed up with it afterwards.
I think that after everything's said and done, it almost feels like they had a fling rather than a full blown head over heels relationship and everything. Which I think was kind of interesting for a movie to do, because like when you see a movie, everything's so perfect, everything's so like, oh, they're gonna fall in love, they're gonna get married, all this stuff. I like that they are kind of a mess. I also love how you said that it looked like Natasha and Steve Rogers were gonna have a thing. I like that they are like, or were, I guess, best friends. I really liked that relationship that they had. I think that was cool to see that kind of relationship on screen.
I don't have a problem that they are just friends. Like, I'm not trying to ship them or anything, like that.
Yeah.
I actually do like that they are just friends, and that you can have a really hot guy and a really hot woman just be good friends, right? Like, that makes sense. But what I'm saying is, like, they had sort of teased it, and then out of nowhere, the next time you see them, she's like really into Bruce, and it's like, it just didn't make sense to me. I don't know.
Yeah, it almost feels like they were trying to make up for lost time. They were trying to like kind of cast light on some events that didn't happen during a movie. They were, that they left more unsaid in between movies, and that they were kind of showing us that by having them at a more advanced phase in their relationship.
It's like they needed her to have something to do in that movie. Because it's like,
you think so? You think it was functionality?
I think so, because like, Tony and Bruce are both kind of working on Ultron, and Steve is kind of at odds with Tony. Like, that's not, why are you trying to do, it's like the beginnings of a civil war almost. And
Yeah.
Thor has his whole story of like how he kind of unveils the Infinity Stones, and Hawkeye's got his family and talking about retiring, and like everybody has something going on except Natasha. The only thing she really has going on is she's kind of into Bruce and is thinking about retiring, and they can go off together.
Yeah.
And we don't need to spend a ton more time on it. It is what it is. Like, it doesn't, I don't think it detracts the movie. It just is, it felt weird for me. I don't know.
I get you. Let's move on. What's
You're on number 11.
Let's see, I said What If, I said Avengers. Okay, my next one is then Thor Ragnarok.
Wow.
Coming in at number 11.
Okay.
Is it much higher on yours?
Much higher.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I loved Thor Ragnarok. So I will say, and this, I don't think that this influences my opinion of the movie at all, but I do have a kind of a story with Thor Ragnarok.
Sure.
So when I saw Thor Ragnarok in theaters, we went into the theaters and we were pretty early. So I was expecting like pre-show stuff, like way before the trailers had started. And they were doing, so what we actually walked in on was the like pre-credits where they're still showing like images. Like, I don't remember if it was like a concept art, like some sort of art with that they were showing, like Tom Hiddleston, Chris Hemsworth, all that stuff. And I thought maybe they were just doing, and the lights were up. So I thought maybe they were just doing like some sort of weird like pre-show thing. I didn't know what the hell they were doing. And then they show the post-credits scene, and Thor's missing an eye, and they're talking about what they're going to do about Asgard and everything. And I'm like, what's going on? So it turns out the previous show, I guess the fire alarm had went off and everybody had to evacuate the building. And then they brought all the people back into the building and then pressed play on the movie. So the movie was like running like a half hour late. So I walked in on the very last scene of Thor Ragnarok and saw it first before the movie. I was mad.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Could you imagine if you had done that for Endgame and you walked in and like here's Black Panther walking through the portal?
or Infinity War? Oh my God. I would have been devastated. I would have been so mad.
Oh God. That's hilarious. That sucks. But man, it's a great movie though.
Yeah. So I love the movie. It's funny, which I half expected because of the way that it was marketed. The trailer was pretty funny. Seeing Hulk in the role that Hulk was, so good. I mean, I have nothing but good things to say about Thor Ragnarok.
He's a friend from work.
Yeah. It's so good, and it really it kind of sets Thor up for his more like. This is kind of a weird way to say it, but like depressed funny. So like Thor's such a broken character, right? Like, he's lost his parents, he loses his brother all the time, he's lost his home world, he's lost like half his people. Like, so many dramatic things have happened to Thor, and you see that in Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame, and all that. But like, he plays it off with comedy, the way that you or I would. You find the good in it and joke about stuff, and that's really what Thor Ragnarok was.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I have it really high on my list, so I'll save my thoughts on it for when I get to it.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, man. My number 11.
Yeah, let's hear it.
You'll probably be a little surprised this is as low as it is, because I love this hero so much. But I have Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Okay.
Anybody that knows me, I don't know if Spider-Man or Batman is my favorite superhero, but I guess it depends on the season that we're in. I don't know. Yeah, right now,
true.
I am on a massive Spider kick. And, when we got to Civil War and we knew Spider-Man was going to be in it, it was so exciting, right? Because it's easy to forget that the MCU was going on and Sony was doing the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies, 2012 and 2014. And so it was always like, we're never going to see Spider-Man in the MCU. So when we finally got him in the MCU, it was like this different take on him. But he was also like a more true Peter Parker Spider-Man. I think he's the perfect Parker. I think he's the perfect Spider-Man. You know, he actually looks like he's in high school as opposed to Tobey Maguire.
Yeah.
Looks like he could be Peter's dad at some points.
You know, when they announced, when they had like the article or whatever, that Spider-Man was finally going to be in the MCU, he was going to be in Civil War, I thought it was fake. I didn't believe it because of the Andrew Garfield stuff that had been coming out. I didn't believe that they were going to do a new Spider-Man in this universe. I didn't think it could work. I just didn't think they were going to do it.
Oh man, well, because it was up in the air if they were going to do the Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man 3, and so it was like, you know, they had the way they had ended the second one. It was almost like they could definitely continue it on. You know, they had teased Doc Ock, and you know, we'd finally gotten Goblin, and he'd die. So it was like, there's no way they're going to do him in the MCU. And when they did, it was like, oh my god, it was so well done, man. And I love the relationship with him and Tony. Obviously, is well documented as, you know, father-son-esque, and you had hot Aunt May, and the dynamic with dynamic with Happy is so much fun. And you know,
you work for Spider-Man. I work with Spider-Man.
That's far from home, but
yeah,
man. I can't say enough about Homecoming. The only thing I'll say about it is I feel like I'm watching a high school movie. Like I feel like I'm watching The Breakfast Club in the MCU almost. But you know, he's quick-witted. The suit is brilliant. All the gadgets and all the fun things. The Karen stuff is really funny. I love that they have Aaron Davis in it, Childish Gambino's character. That's Miles Morales. You know, that scene where he's like, I got a nephew that lives in the neighborhood. I don't want those weapons. So like, Miles exists in the MCU, and maybe we'll get to see him at some point.
Maybe.
I love it. I love Tom Holland. I'm a little sad because I've seen him recently say that they're treating No Way Home as the finale, and that they don't know if they're going to. I know. Hold on. So we'll see if we see more of him. We do know this. Tom Holland signed on for this next movie, and he signed on for one other, probably Avengers style team up in the MCU. And after that, it's up in the air whether Sony and Disney are going to be able to work together. So we'll see. But I love it. It's a great movie. It's a lot of fun. Vulture. So Vulture's great as well.
Vulture.
Michael Keaton kills it.
Michael Keaton's Vulture is so good.
It's great.
And Jake Gyllenhaal's Mysterio is unbelievable. I know that's not the movie that you're talking about, but like just talking about Spider-Man stuff, like they're doing great work with Spider-Man, and I don't want to talk too much about it, but like what you said with them treating Spider-Man No Way Home as sort of a finale, I feel like that is an example of their like almost clickbait news, because like of course they're going to treat it as such, because like there's such a trend with trilogies, and so this could be the last one. I really don't think it will be. I think that this is potentially, you know, the end of an era, but I don't see it.
We'll always have Spider-Man movies, especially as long as Sony has it, because they have this whole universe planned for them. I really wish that Disney would just back up the Brinks truck and give Sony whatever they want and get the rights to Spider-Man.
They should. They absolutely should. They know that they should. I mean, it's Spider-Man, dude. It's like it's the most popular character in the Marvel franchise, don't you think? I mean,
if you go back to the 60s and 70s and 80s,
and
you buy any Marvel comic, whose face is on it? Whose face is in the corner of a Punisher comic? Fantastic.
Totally their flagship character.
Yeah, exactly. You can argue Iron Man might be the flagship guy now, or at least was
for MCU era stuff. I would agree with you.
The larger Marvel history, it is for sure Spider-Man, and I mean, until I die, I will watch any Spider content they want to throw at us. We spend a lot of time on this stuff, so feel free to bring us into
Spider-Man
the top 10.
so much.
We could do a whole pod on Spider-Man.
I could talk about Spider-Man forever. All right. Where are we at?
Yeah. Bring us into what was your number 11? You did Avengers, and then you did.
I did Avengers. I did Thor Ragnarok. Up next, I have Wanda Vision.
Wow, I forgot you hadn't even said anything about it.
Yeah. I love Wanda Vision. Yes. So I think that has a lot to do with like timing, because this is, like you said, first thing post pandemic. So we were all, I was totally starved for Marvel content, wishing for anything to come out. And when this came out, we watched the first 2 episodes back to back. And I was a little lukewarm about it, but every episode kept getting better. Yeah. And I was just hooked. I think that it was fun. I still think it's fun to, wait a week and let the hype build and then watch 1 episode and then be ready for the next thing. I think it's a great way to do it. I'm glad that they're releasing 1 at a time on Disney Plus. A lot of that is why we're doing this podcast in the way that we are. So I think that Wanda was great. I love Elizabeth Olsen. I think she's the perfect Wanda. I love that she can nail any emotion. Like she can do happy well, she can do like devastated. Her range is amazing. And seeing Paul Bettany on screen as a human version of Vision, like with without the costume, without the paint and everything, was really cool. I mean, I loved Sword. I loved Monica Rambeau. Yeah, I loved Agatha. Like, it was just a great show. I really, really liked it. I know you put it a lot lower than I expected you to.
I had it at 24.
24. Yeah, I think that's crazy low. I don't know. I really think it was a timing thing for me. It connected with me at a really important time. So yeah, I would like to
rewatch it, and I really wish we would have started this podcast with it. We just didn't think to do it. But yeah, I think it would have been a really good one to start with. And there's a lot to like about it. I'm not saying I just feel like, of the 9 episodes, the first 3 are like not a lot going on. And so it's like, I'm ready for this to get going. The middle of it is strong and it ends well. And I agree. If Elizabeth Olsen is phenomenal, they really dug into her trauma, and watching her go up onto Vision's destroyed body and see that was interesting, and that's good. I can't believe you had it that high. That's wild.
Yeah, I really liked it. Can
right.
You still hear me all right?
Yeah.
Okay, I switched AirPods, so I'm just making sure this is working okay.
All right. Sorry about the technical difficulties, folks.
We've never. I think that this has got to be our longest one, right? I don't think we've ever gone this long on one. All right, what's your
my number 10? Captain America, the first Avenger. Right. I couldn't believe how low you had this, man.
It was surprising to me too, because I do love the movie.
For as old as it is, it's phase 1. It's a period piece. There's next to no one else in the MCU in it. Obviously, Bucky's in it, kind of. Peggy Carter's in it. But that's it. This is Steve Rogers, and it is the ultimate hero's journey, where you have this guy that is like scrawny, bit of a loser, isn't accepted, doesn't really have a place, and through literal heart and determination is given an opportunity, doesn't give up, wants to be in the army so bad, which is not something that really anybody can relate to now. But if you put yourself in the 40s mindset, this guy that wanted to serve his country and had this dream and did everything he could to achieve it, and then is gifted this super soldier serum and becomes this Greek god of a human being.
Yeah.
I love it, man. The Red Skull stuff, I think he's one of the cooler villains early on MCU. It was like a perfect Captain America adaptation. And like, listen, growing up, I didn't give a damn about Captain America.
Same.
I had a friend that had a Captain America action figure, and I was like, that's dumb. Like, that's not Batman. That's not Superman. Who the hell is that? Like, this is stupid. And when you look back, Captain America is kind of a hokey hero, but God, man, Chris Evans just crushed it. And
the movies,
the Captain America
really
trilogy, in my opinion, is the best thing about the MCU outside of main Avengers movies. And this one started it all for him. And like you said, that scene at the very end where he realizes where he's at and shows up in Times Square, and Nick Fury is like, hey man, you know, and trying to get him
It's good
to
stuff.
understand what's going on. Yeah, it's a bit of a tragedy movie, but it's also so well done, and there's a lot to love about it. So I love this movie, and it holds up so well for a movie that came out 10 years ago that is very different from the rest of the MCU. It's remarkable how good it is.
Yep, I agree.
So, all right, man, what's your number 9?
Number 9, I have Spider-Man Far From Home. Put that in the number 9 spot. Yeah, I was surprised that you put Homecoming lower than Far From Home. I thought Homecoming was the stronger of the two. Right? Am I right? You put Homecoming for number 11?
I have not done Far From Home yet. It's coming soon, but I have not done it yet.
Okay. Yeah, I really liked Far From Home. I loved Homecoming. Mysterio was super good. The visual effects on all the Mysterio magic was super cool. I loved that they made him a science character rather than a magic character. Did not expect that at all. I mean,
well, that is Mysterio. He's not like it's all mirrors and tricks.
I guess that's true. Yeah. But like the way that the way they
modernize it with drones is really well done.
Yeah. I guess that's what I mean because it's technology versus wasn't it like it was like smoke and mirrors from like the cartoons and stuff, right?
Yeah. He doesn't actually have magic. That's the whole thing with Mysterio. He's he's deceitful. He's not.
Yeah.
Because if he actually had magic, he'd probably do away with Parker pretty easily.
Yeah, probably. So I mean, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about Far From Home. I really liked it. It's impossible for me to not love Spider-Man. So I know it's gonna be top 10 for me.
Sure. Yeah, I've got a few to say about it. I'm a few away from it, but I'll get to it here in a second. My number 9 is the original Iron Man, the first one, the one that started it all.
It's a great movie.
Sort of like Captain America, it's remarkable how well it holds up. I mean, it's the literal first one, and it's still in the top 10. The whole story of Tony Stark and the way that they tell it, and seeing him go from this guy that really only cares about himself and sees the destruction that his empire has caused and how it almost killed him and how he wants to course correct. And then you have like a legitimate villain in Obadiah.
Obadiah Stane is so cool. I love
Jeff Bridges,
Obadiah
man.
Stane. I love all of the villains that are like all the public figure villains who are secretly evil are so good in the MCU. The Justin Hammer, the Aldrich Killian, Baron Zemo, like all of these like in the shadows evil characters are done so well in the MCU, and Obadiah is definitely one of them.
Yeah, I think it's a good gripe with some of the Marvel movies is a lot of the villains aren't that great. Some of them are a little underwhelming, but for the first one, on a smaller scale, Obadiah was the perfect first villain. And man, this movie's just great. It's incredible that it still holds up so well. And some of it doesn't age that well. I mean, it's definitely a time capsule because he's talking about don't put that on your MySpace. He's got the sidekick cell phone. It's definitely a timepiece at this point. But it's good, man, and it's the movie that started it all. And God, man, if this movie had flopped, if this movie had been like lukewarm, or if it had been like Fantastic Four level bad, like we wouldn't have any of this right now. So
yeah. I mean, I could watch the original Iron Man any day. It's fun seeing how far they've come as a series and also how far Tony Stark has come as a character, because like you get those same like narcissistic style like under his breath speeches where he's just like so rude to people, but like on the surface level, but like we've all seen Endgame. He's got a heart of gold. He'll make the big sacrifice play. It is really cool going back and seeing even like the opening scene where they were listening to AC/DC in the back of the Fun V. Like he is like on another level with how narcissistic he is, and it's really cool to go back all those years and see that. Yeah,
it's great, man. I'm really happy with it, and I'm sure you have more to say when you actually get to it. But what's your number 8?
Number 8 is Iron Man.
Oh, all right. Keep talking by all means.
Yeah. Sorry, that's why I was going into it. Yeah, because that's where it lives on my list as well. I think that it's great. I think that there are some our top 5 is going to be almost identical. I think
I
because
think so.
we haven't we haven't talked about the same movies. So, what more is there to say about the first Iron Man? Man, it's a legend. 2008 was so long ago. I was just a little kid, man, and I saw the movie on opening night, not knowing how big it was going to be. I remember seeing like that movie, and what was the other one that we saw?
Dark
The
Knight.
first, no, that was around. Yeah, that was the same year. That's right.
This came out in May. I think Dark Knight was June. I might have that backwards.
Okay.
Maybe it was within a few weeks of each other. They were really close.
And this movie and the first Transformers movie, I saw on opening night in theaters. It was a whole new experience for me because I didn't really go to the theater a whole lot. And I went with Jake, our friend Caleb's older brother. He was yeah, let's drive and see this movie. I was like, okay, man. Yeah, absolutely. I want to do that. It was so much fun. I had no idea how big this movie was going to be.
Same, man. Because obviously we had no idea that Marvel was going to be this. They had the post-credit scene where he's with Nick Fury and this is the Avenger Initiative and all that. But at the time, like people forget, from 2000 to 2008, you had the first couple X-Men movies were pretty good. The first couple Spider-Man movies were good, but like Spider-Man 3 people didn't really love. X-Men 3 people didn't really love. The 2 Fantastic Four movies were bad. The Punisher, Daredevil, Elektra, like Catwoman came out around that time. Like,
yeah, I mean, this was a risk. This movie was a risk.
That Hulk I mentioned earlier, the Ang Lee. This movie was an ambitious movie. And if you also want to take it further, so Robert Downey Jr. was at a different point. People looked at him differently than they do now. Like
was this his first role post all the trouble that he got in?
One of them. I mean, I think he did Zodiac a year or two before.
Okay. With what was that?
I don't know. But this was one of those things where it was like, yeah, he had been in a lot of trouble, and he's taking on this big role, and it's like people don't really know who Iron Man is. Iron Man was not Spider-Man. Iron Man was not the Hulk. Like, he's kind of a lesser known character at the time. So like, this was an ambitious undertaking to launch a whole cinematic universe with this character and that actor. Like,
they had to have a lot fall into place, and it did.
I've said this word 1,000 times already, but it was remarkable for it to work out as well as it has. It was really.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right, moving on.
All right, let's move it on to. Yeah. Go ahead.
My number 8 is Spider-Man: Far From Home, and I love this movie. I wish I could put it higher. There's a lot of other really good things to have in the MCU.
Yeah.
So to rewind into the other Spider-Man movies, we had already seen Goblin. We'd already seen Doc Ock. We'd already seen Venom. We'd seen Sandman. We'd seen Electro. We'd even gotten a glimpse of Rhino, Lizard. Like, we'd seen most of his villains. And as much as I would love to see more of his arch nemesis, like a Doc Ock or a Goblin in the MCU, we are about to see them. Getting a character like Mysterio for me was a lot of fun because he's not someone that you really ever thought would get a live action movie. And for them to get a guy like Jake Gyllenhaal to play it so well, that I'm not going to lie to you, like, I know Quentin Beck is a villain, and I know that he is a bad guy. But that scene where Peter gives him the glasses and then he reveals himself, I was like, what a bastard. Like, they got
It's so diabolical. Yeah.
It was like I knew it was coming, but I didn't know it was coming at the same time. And it was just so well done. I love this movie to death. I've watched it many times since it came out. That scene where Peter goes to tell Nick Fury and Maria Hill that Quentin's this bastard, and then like it's actually Mysterio, and he's sending him through the ringer, and oh my god, that whole scene is just like, that was Mysterio. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
as close as you can get it. And then to see him go through the whole trauma of losing Tony and coming over that, and the first person he really puts his faith into stabs him in the back, and so he has to overcome that. And the scene with Happy, and that scene on the plane where he's putting the suit together and he throws on AC/DC, and even though he's like, oh, I love Led Zeppelin, like
He's just a stupid kid.
It's such a Tony Stark thing to do, and so Happy's kind of looking at him like, wow, all right, like this is I love this movie. I do have one gripe with the Spider-Man movies in the MCU, and that is that Zendaya is great, and I like her as a love interest, but the fact that they call her MJ is frustrating.
Yeah. I don't disagree. It's almost like they needed. I agree with it. She's so great. It's hard to label that as a gripe, because like she's so good. And she's such a good love interest, and their chemistry on screen is amazing. Wow. She gets these great lines, but yeah, she doesn't look like MJ. She doesn't act like MJ. There's nothing about her. Yeah, nothing about her screams MJ. It's like they needed to put the MJ name on it so that you know who she's going to become, as far as like the love interest.
Yeah,
but like they could have called her anything and it would not have mattered. They could have called her Gwen Stacy. Who cares? Like, all we need to know is that she's the love interest.
That would have bugged me too, because Gwen Stacy is iconic as well, and very important to that character. I love Zendaya. I like her character. I think that the portrayal on screen is great. Like you said, the chemistry is awesome. She kind of represents like a quirkier, part of the fan base, that there's a lot of young women that can look up to a character like that. And so like I'm really happy that they have somebody that they can look up to. Sort of like what's her name from Breakfast Club? What's her name? Molly Sheedy's character.
Yeah. I don't know.
Somebody like that. That's just a little bit different, a little bit awkward, but cool in a way, right? Like she's great, and so you're right. It's bad to call it a gripe, because she's great. I just wish that they wouldn't have called her MJ. Like, there's nothing about her that is at all.
There's no the only real reason that they have to call her MJ is so that you understand who she is functionally.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is what it is. So great movie though.
My Far From Home gripe is, and I don't want to get into it too much because I already shit on the Skrulls, but the reveal at the end that Maria Hill and Nick Fury are Skrulls, and so that puts a weird taste in my mouth, because I don't know, like, at what point, like, were they in the movie at all? Were they not in the movie at all? Was like, because they have that on screen chemistry, where Nick Fury's like standing on a ledge, like making his his power plays, and then there's a drone that's about to take him out, and Maria just launches this rocket at it, blows it up. It's like, I got you. Like, there's all that chemistry, but they're not the characters. They're not actually those characters, and I think that kind of sucks. I'm not a Skrull guy. I think it was a weird choice. I think that I really think that kind of plot device lends itself to weird storytelling, and it doesn't really fit in the MCU, in my opinion. So, but anyway, that's just one man's opinion.
Let's not spend too much time on that. We can revisit that whenever we finally get to Secret Invasion. We'll see how that
unfolds. It's going to become relevant quick, so we're definitely going to hash that out.
For sure. What do you have at your number 7? We're coming in hot.
My number 7 was actually Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Anything to add?
Not really. I'm trying to go through the whole movie in my head. I feel like we already talked enough about it.
That's all right.
I love it. Yeah, Michael Keaton was great. Zendaya is great. Good solid movie. Love the relationship with Happy. I love that he wants to be an Avenger so bad until the opportunity is given to him. I love that he figures out the need to be the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. It's just a great story, It
is. It really is. It's really well done. What more can you say about Spider-Man, right?
Well,
what do you got for number 7? I've got Avengers. The first one.
First Avengers. Okay.
Yeah, not much more to add. I mean, like we said, so ambitious, so well done. Well, everything they did to really set the stage for the remaining MCU, and all the work that they did with that allows them to really have fun with these characters now, and we can kind of anybody that's existing can just jump in, and we know who they are, and we don't have to worry about extra backstory. A Shang-Chi movie can be about Shang-Chi, and you can have Wong just kind of hop in there, and that's all because of Avengers. So not much more to say. We've kind of talked about it to death and all that. So jump on to number 6. What do you got there?
Number 6, I have Thor, the first Thor movie.
Good Lord.
I know. Jesus. I knew you were going to react this way. I love the first Thor. I love all of the actors, the characters, the side characters. I love Jane. I love Kat Dennings' character. What's his name? Was it Stevens? Eric Stevens. I love him.
No, Selvig. Eric Selvig.
Selvig. Yeah, Eric Selvig. That's right. All these characters. I mean, it's got a little bit of Coulson. It's got, it introduces Asgard as a place. It's got an amazing score. The soundtrack is great. The Asgard is super visually pleasing. I love Odin. I love Loki. I love Heimdall. All the introductions of these characters. I love the radical character arc that Thor goes on. I love that he's essentially party Thor for the beginning of the movie, and then loses power, and then kind of understands what it means to wield power. And my biggest gripe with this movie is the eyebrows. Like you said earlier, the blonde eyebrows takes you out of it every time, but the content of the movie is golden. I love the Warriors 3. It's just so good.
There is a lot to like about it. It's just, I don't know. It's one of those things. Agree to disagree.
I love I love the drinking scene where they're kind of they're bonding as characters and still not really sure if he's crazy or what, and they're kind of he's teaching them about the different realms, and it's a great movie, man. I love it. I can't explain it.
You do get Hawkeye introduced in it too. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's good. It's fine. I think, again, the floor for Marvel is good, right? So, it's funny because you said that, and I was like, 6? Wow, because, save for Ragnarok, which I haven't talked about yet, the last 5 are going to be pretty similar. So that's actually pretty wild that we have so many and so aligned.
Yeah, I'm looking at the list, and I know. Yeah, I guess we know at this point that our top 5 are going to be the same.
Yeah, pretty well, kind of, because my number 6 is Guardians, and I know that's going to be in your top 5.
Okay, but, gotcha.
God, Guardians is so damn good, man. Everybody thought it was going to flop, and it turned out to be incredible. And no doubt because of the great cast, but you also have to give a lot of credit to James Gunn and his vision for this, and no doubt he was a big reason why Suicide Squad was so good. And the fact that they almost lost him and were going to bring him back for Guardians 3 made me really nervous. We also know that we have Adam Warlock confirmed for Guardians 3. That's exciting.
Yeah, that news just came out like 2 or 3 days ago.
Just this week. So that's great. But man, keep running it back to Guardians. I don't think about it. Even Ronin's not the best villain. I'll give him that. But you get the very first bit of Thanos, all of the comedy. Drax is just my favorite. I think my favorite part is they're escaping the prison and everybody's on the ship, but Quill goes off to get the mixtape. And they're like, we got to go. He's not coming. And they're about to leave, and the Drax kind of looks and he goes, behold. And here comes Star-Lord. And what's the line? He's like, this one shows spirit. You will be a keen ally in the fight against Ronin. It's just I love it so much every time.
That is a surprisingly good Drax impression you've got.
I love the scene where they're in the prison and they're like shit's getting off crazy, and Rocket gets the gun and he's like, "Oh, yeah." It's so well done. The dynamic between all of the characters is amazing. The chemistry is great. Nebula's a lot of fun. She's a full-on
I
villain here.
love
We know she
Nebula.
ends up going on to be a bit of a hero, but there's just so much to love about it. It's a space opera in the MCU. It's like Star Wars and Marvel together. Well, what's not to love?
Yeah, it was the perfect example of like taking my very, very low expectations and just blowing it out of the water. Like they did so good. And this actually is my number 5. So
Okay.
that's I would watch this movie any day of the week. It's just so good. It's maybe the movie that I've rewatched the most. Looking at my list, it's either this one or Captain America: Winter Soldier. I've watched them so many times. Phase 2 I was way into the movies during Phase 2.
Yeah, I would say I think Infinity War is probably my most watched. Spoilers. The first Avengers, the first Iron Man, but Guardians is up there as far as my.
Such a fun movie, and the soundtrack's great. I've got the soundtrack on
God,
CD.
how did I forget to talk about the soundtrack? My buddy Matt has them on vinyl. We listen to them.
Oh, nice! I bet that's super good.
Yeah, shout out again to Matt.
Yeah.
Cool, man. So
all right, man. What do you got for 5? That was my number 5. What's yours?
Cap Winter Soldier.
Okay.
I love this movie, man. Because again, it's so grounded, and the Captain America movies, that whole pocket of the MCU, and I will include Falcon Winter Soldier into that pocket now. Everything about that side is by far and away my absolute favorite. We talked about the relationship with him and Natasha early on. I like the fact that it did end up being just 2 really good friends. I love the addition of Sam here. Bucky coming back and being the Winter Soldier. Talk about a great villain, and just like that entire arc. That's one of the stronger ones early on. The whole Hydra shield stuff was a lot of fun.
I never saw that coming. I never saw Hydra coming out of nowhere. That was so cool. The reveal was amazing.
It was so well done, like throughout the entire movie. You know how like everybody's kind of just like deep pocketed into Hydra, Rumlow, and all that. The elevator fight scene is crazy.
Oh, unforgettable! Yeah, that elevator fight scene. I've watched that scene alone probably 100 times.
Yeah, like if you would have told me that Marvel was going to make a political thriller and I'd be into it, I'd be like, okay. But this movie it's top notch. It's second only to Civil War. We'll talk about in a bit, but yeah, man, it's chef's kiss.
Yeah,
so good.
Chef's kiss. Yeah, man. Actually, that segues me perfectly, man. Number 4 for me is Civil War.
Civil War, okay.
Yeah. Civil War. See, I think that Captain America probably does have the strongest trilogy of any of them. And I think that Civil War tips the scale so much because it's basically an Avengers movie. I mean, it's got everybody in it, everybody, and it's right after Age of Ultron. They're kind of picking up the pieces of what they lost, because they caused. I mean, Tony caused Ultron. Tony and Bruce. So they're picking up the pieces, kind of making amends with the governments and it just feels so natural that the Sokovia Accords would split all of these heroes, because I feel like all of them see both sides of it, but Zemo, eventually Zemo has to throw the wrench in there and show Bucky killing Tony's parents to make him really go to war. But they were split on the idea, and that kind of, like you said, the political aspect of it made it really, really interesting. It made for a really good movie.
I have a lot to say about it, so I'll hold off because it's coming up soon. It's not my number 4, but
not only does it have outstanding action sequences, but some of the dialogue, some of the conversations between Tony and Steve, just outstanding. It was just a really, really, really good movie all around.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll get to it here in a second. My number 4 is Ragnarok. Oh, I'm sorry. Do you keep going if you want.
All I was going to say is, I almost forgot to mention that it also introduced Spider-Man and Black Panther. It was so ambitious. It was so good. Everything about it was it's dialed up to 10 the entire time.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've got it coming up here soon.
Yeah.
I got nothing but great things to say about it. So hang tight. My
Yeah.
number 4 is Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Because I have the first 2 Thor movies so low, obviously, like I didn't have a ton of expectations going into it. I was looking forward to it for sure. I was excited that Hulk was going to be in it. And then when you get into it, it's so totally different from those other ones, and it really takes that character into another direction. And so seeing a redeemed Loki, getting to see a different side of Hulk and all of the comedy that they have in it, and adding Valkyrie, and you got that scene with Doctor Strange, and the whole
They sunset Odin as a character, which was such a
oh,
big move. They
yes,
introduced Hela, which
Hela,
was,
one of the
like,
better villains in the MCU by far, Hela. Um,
yeah.
the Surtur stuff, and I'll even say that like that opening scene where he's kind of caught in the chains
And
and
swinging around. Oh, hang on, I'm coming back.
yeah, he goes, Thor, son of Odin, Surtur, son of a bitch, you're
Bitch.
still alive. Like, it was so well done. It's like that
Yeah.
really set the stage for what the movie was going to be, and it's one of those ones I could throw on anytime and watch it. It's amazing, and that scene, the whole like trajectory of Thor loses the hammer and feels like that's like his only real source of power, and
Yeah.
when he finally at the end of the movie, what are you the god of? And then bam, lightning bolt, and then he's just like glowing, and the eyes are glowing, and he's just wiping out all the whatever the hell they are. It's just so well done, man. It's a hell of a ride. Taika Waititi, breath of fresh air. The Korg and Meeg stuff is great.
Mm-hmm.
And
Carl Urban. I forget his character's name, but Carl Urban was fantastic in that movie. This is my stuff. I can't remember the character's name. Man, he was good too.
This is Dez and Troy. And how could I forget Jeff Goldblum as the Grand Master? Oh my God, there's so much.
Yeah.
When Thor and Hulk are fighting and Loki's up there watching and he's like, yeah, because what did Hulk like attack Thor, or Thor like hit Hulk and Loki was on?
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember exactly what it was, but yeah, it was just great. They callbacks and
you can really tell that Jeff Goldblum loves playing that character too, which is so fun to watch.
Yeah, there's a lot to love in there, a lot to love. So that's my number 4. What do you got for 3?
All right, number 3, Avengers Infinity War.
All right.
I know that look, and I know that it's going to be your number 1. Yeah, Infinity War. It took me a little while to place the next 3, and Infinity War. It was hard to put it below Endgame. What did it for me between the 2, honestly, is probably like time travel and dramatic, dramatic comeuppance. Like both movies are just fantastic. Walking out of the theater after Infinity War, after the snap, after half of our beloved characters disappear, it's a somber like, but there's more, right? And like, they had first announced that Infinity War and Endgame were going to be Infinity Wars Part 1 and 2. And so and then when they announced that it wasn't that way, they were keeping their schedule to two Avengers movies back-to-back years. They stuck with that, but they just titled it Infinity War. I really expected resolution at the end of the movie, and when there wasn't, I was kind of shook. Like it was a really, really surreal experience.
Very jarring ending for sure. I will save my thoughts because I have a lot to say about it. So
I think the biggest strength of this movie is having so many pieces on the board and just like keeping track with, this is where we saw our character last, this is where he's at, this is where she's at, this is where this stone is, and everything finally just perfectly coming into place. Like it makes the whole MCU a puzzle, and this is kind of the resolution of that puzzle.
Absolutely.
I mean, we've seen Thanos in the shadows, and we really still, after I mean, what was his first appearance was in the first Avengers movie, right? That was 2012,
Very
and
end,
then
yeah.
this movie was what, 2018? Is that right, or
Yeah.
was it? Yeah,
Well,
so like
yeah.
six years in the making, not really knowing anything about Thanos save for the comics. This was a great movie. Very, very ambitious move. Super good payoff. Love it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Any
Yeah.
more thoughts on that? Because I'm saving all mine for my turn.
Yeah, we'll wait. We'll wait for yours. Let's move on to your number three.
Civil War. All right, man.
Civil War.
I love this movie, and it's a Captain America movie. It's his part three. I'll give him that. But I've always considered this to be Avengers 2.5 because it
Agreed.
is. It's all of them except for Thor and Hulk.
Yeah.
And for me, it's a bit of a sentimental pick as well because like I was kind of at a rough point in my life when this movie was coming out, and I
Hmm.
hadn't been to the movies in a while, and I kind of was ready to stop sulking in my own depression. And I was like, I need
Hmm.
to get out more. I need to start doing things. Like, oh, I should go see Civil War. So I went and I saw it, and I was like, oh my god, this movie is incredible. It's so good, man. It's just like from start to finish. You know, like you said, you're really picking up the pieces from the end of Age of Ultron, and they're actually dealing with real repercussions from that
Yeah.
movie, which is the benefit of having this shared universe and these continued stories is that you know there's not just resolution in the movie. There's stuff that will carry on and will impact how these other movies are done and a
Hmm.
lot of the stories that take place. And so the fact that you had you know a legitimate side and like you said each side kind of saw the other side's point. It was like, no, I really feel this way. And how like it seemed like Tony and Steve were going to be friends again, and then the Zemo stuff, it shattered that completely. And
Destroys it. Yeah.
that whole fight with Steve and Bucky and Iron Man and that like dark setting
Hmm.
and just how well that was done. And like you said, introducing both Black Panther and Spider-Man to the MCU. Oh my
Hmm.
gosh, just so well done. Getting to see Vision and getting Wanda involved and the return of Ant-Man and watching him sort of interact and that airport scene, I don't care who you are, that's one of the best fight scenes in
Yep.
the whole cinematic universe. Just everything
Yep.
about it, you know, like Peter's talking, you know, well, first off, Ant-Man is like, I might have an idea. And he grows up and he's like, oh, it's like he's so excited that it actually worked. And then Peter's like, have you guys seen that really old movie with the spacewalkers on the ice planet? Jesus, Tony, where'd you find this guy? And
Yeah.
it's just so well done. It's so much fun. I this is another one that I've seen. It's probably top 5 most watched, and that's why it's you know my number 3 because I love it. It's a sentimental
Yeah.
pick for me. It benefits from having everybody in it. God, I love this movie so much.
Yeah. Super memorable.
Yeah,
Super memorable movie.
yeah,
Yeah. I don't even know what else to say about it, man. It's just it's perfect. Like it's one of the it's a perfect movie. It's thrilling all the way through. The introductions of Spider-Man and Black Panther were done great. I mean, they could have done a much worse job on that. I feel like they introduced them so fluidly, so
yeah.
like organically. You know what I mean?
Peak
Just
MCU really in terms of like
yeah,
how they did things. Yeah,
yeah. All right, man. That's all I got for what did you say? Civil War.
yeah.
So it's time for my number. Is it
Your
time
number
for my number
2.
two?
Your
Oh
number
man, we're
2.
getting close. What do you think it's going to be?
I think it's going to be Guardians.
Nope, I already did Guardians. I've got. It's either going to be Endgame or Winter Soldier.
Is it Endgame?
It is. It's Endgame. Yeah, yeah. My number one.
Wow.
Number one is Winter Soldier. Man, I love that movie. So
Okay.
Endgame above Infinity War was a tough choice. I am a sucker for time travel, especially when you do it in a really interesting and impactful way, and I think that they did. I think that they did a good job of balancing the fact that like the whole movie wasn't going to be about time travel, but like they are in the past like what like an hour of the movie, like all of Act Two,
Yeah.
like they did it so well. I mean, they picked up the pieces of Infinity War, Nebula and Tony coming home and being rescued by Captain Marvel was such a like a cool like I remember the year between Infinity War and Endgame. I thought about that every day. Like I thought about like how the hell are they going to get saved every single day? Like I nerded out hard for like in between these two movies. So I can't say enough good things about Endgame. The resolution is great. The final battle was over the top insane with the all out war sequences, the part where Captain Marvel flies through the ship, the part where Peter's got the Infinity Gauntlet and is trying to get it back to Tony. Or back to the van because aren't they going to try to destroy it using the quantum realm?
They're trying to take the stones back in time while they fight Thanos, so he can't.
Yeah.
And right. So the whole thing is they're they obviously he destroys their compound or whatever. So they're like, oh crap, we got to get in the van, and then they can't turn the van on, and then like Captain Marvel has the gauntlet, and this is my number 2 as well, obviously.
Okay, cool.
So this is actually perfect. God, this really is a great movie, and because Infinity War ends the way that it does, you're so amped up for a full year about this movie. And like I remember I could not wait for the teaser. I couldn't wait for the trailer. And man, when they moved
I was watching YouTube compilations of scenes that were impactful. I was reading like basically conspiracy level stuff about what was going to be on an Endgame. Like I was in that year. I was so into it. I was
removed. With it. I wanted to be as surprised at everything that was going to happen. I mean, I had seen a lot of people talk about how it was most likely going to be time travel because they had shown scenes that had been shot of them in their Avengers 1 uniforms.
Their older costumes.
So it was like they're going to go back to New York, right?
Yeah.
But this movie it's really, really good. My only gripe is like it's just a little too long, and the past stuff is fun. It is, but it's also like, all right, I know we all know what we're here for, and when we finally get there, it's so damn satisfying. I still will just like I should watch the portal scene, and I'll pull it up on YouTube, and I get chills to this day. On your left, I get so geeked out at that.
Yeah.
And you got T'Challa walking out with Shuri and Okoye, and then slowly, but I mean, like watching it in theaters too. The whole Peter comes through, and everyone's like, yeah! Like,
did people cheer in your theater?
Yeah.
I think they did in mine too. I'm pretty sure there was some cheering in mine. I know that there was cheering when Cap lifted the hammer, when he called the hammer to him. The theater went nuts. I went nuts. I mean, that was so surprising. Yeah,
because it was like, so like that whole scene where they're standing over looking at him sitting there. It's like, oh man, this is sick. And they walk up super slow, and it's like, oh man. And he's got that speech, and it's just so well done. You're just like, all right, man, come on, let's go, hit him. And they start fighting, and then like he lifts up Stormbreaker. So you're like, oh my God, that's like surprising by itself. And you're like, oh man, he's about to kill Thor. And then you see the hammer move, and for a second I'm like, Thor's moving the hammer. And then I'm like, wait a minute, but that doesn't make sense. And then it hits him in the head, and the Thor's like, huh? And then they show him like catch it, and you're like, oh my God! Like it's I was geeked. I was so excited.
Oh man, me too. Yeah. I love the introduction of Fat Thor. I think Fat Thor is hilarious.
And that was such a risk too, because like he's so badass. They've done so well to set him up in Ragnarok and Infinity War. And so it was a bit of a risk to take such a different take on him, but it's so well done.
What a both funny and freeing phone call Chris Hemsworth must have gotten from Marvel, from whoever spoke to him. Hey, you know how you've been like dieting and working out like all day, every day for the past like decade? Don't even worry about it, man. Don't worry about it this time. We got a suit for you.
We're gonna put you in a fat suit. That whole revelation that he's fat too, because you're just like, he hasn't left the place since however long, and he's in there playing video games with Korg and Meeg, and hey boys, welcome in. I'll hop on the Wi-Fi. No password, of course. It's like he's like, you look like ice cream.
Seeing him at that like ultimate low makes the scene where they confront Thanos in the present, where he just slices off his head instantly. Like that scene, it just makes so much sense. It makes so much sense that he would want to end things that way, that quickly, that abruptly, and it surprises everyone. But I'm just like, yeah, that's very believable for his character right now.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's another thing is like the way that it picks up directly after Infinity War and like they actually do explore that. Like we're still fighting. We're still trying to figure this out. And then when they ultimately find out he destroyed the stones, then they do the 5-year gap. Right. So
that was like, chilling. Yeah. That was like, oh my God, like they're like that 5-year gap. I remember when they put that on screen, I was just like, they've never done something like that in the MCU. Everything in the MCU has potentially run concurrent with our timeline. So it's been really easy to, okay, this was 2008, this was 2010. Like we're 5 years in the future. We're 5 years beyond the snap. We're 5 years beyond half of everything dying. Like it was just, it was chilling.
Thanks to COVID too, it's gonna line up really well by the time we actually get to 2023. That like it'll just make sense. At some point. Kind of worked out in their favor. Yeah, man. Yeah. I love this movie. I'll talk about Infinity War here in a bit. That's for sure. Number 2. So I want to hear, unless you have more to say about Endgame, I want to hear
number one, man. Captain America and the Winter Soldier.
Wow. So
it may not be as, grand a scale as some of the, as the Avengers movie, the ultimate, the Infinity War Endgame saga. But like, if I want to dedicate 2 hours or whatever it may be to watching a movie, that is one that I can throw on at any time and enjoy every second of. I think that it's really, really well put together. It was the first one that was directed by the Russo brothers.
It's true.
It was during phase 2. It was definitely the best movie at the time. When that movie came out, it was so much better than anything they had put out. I loved seeing, the man out of time, the hero from World War II set foot in a modern era. That kind of gave me a little bit of time travel vibes, in itself, because he's got to figure out this world of, secrets and compartmentalizing and be a part of a team that he doesn't really understand. The introduction of Falcon was done brilliantly. The revelation that Hydra still exists and is infiltrating S.H.I.E.L.D. was amazing. Everything about Bucky was super good. I fanboy for Bucky so hard. It's so many good scenes. I don't know. I can't say enough good things about Falcon or Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Love the movie. So good.
It really is brilliant, man. I mean, there's a reason why it was in my top 5 as well. Yeah, man. I don't know what else you could really say about it. It's really, really, really well done, and just a testament to what Marvel was able to do with all these characters. And I think this was like the first movie after, aside from maybe Avengers, that really was like, oh wow, these Marvel movies are really good.
They're on another level.
Yeah. It was like, oh, this is what we can expect moving forward. And for a while, I mean, I have it at 5, and it wasn't until Ragnarok, Civil War, I guess, would be the next one that came out. So it was a damn good movie.
Much the same feeling that I get when I'm watching like The Dark Knight, which I don't know if people understand how much we love like Batman and DC and all that. Like we don't really talk about it in the podcast a whole lot. We are big DC fans. It's just Absolutely. That Marvel's banging as far as shows and movies go and everything. But like we are diehard Batman fans, and when The Dark
Yes.
Knight came out, I was head over heels in love with that movie.
Same.
And
We watched that so many times.
yeah, and it's one of those movies that's like you forget that you're watching a superhero movie. You forget that you're watching a movie
Yeah.
about a man that dresses as a bat and he's fighting. It's like you forget all that stuff. Much the same way that I forget, that I'm watching a superhero movie when I'm watching Captain America and the Winter Soldier. Like I forget that like this is how fantastical this is. This is a guy with a super soldier serum from the 40s that was frozen and he fights with a shield. Like I forget all about that stuff. It's just so good. The writing is so good.
It's one of those movies that, you could just kind of like, you don't really need anything that comes before it or anything that comes after it. You can watch it by itself. Right. It does help to know that he existed in the 40s and all that. But aside from that, like you could just like throw it on. And I think that anybody that doesn't love superhero movies, like you said, it doesn't feel like one. So you could really just kind of show it to anyone and be like, oh, this is just a really good movie, because it's, outside of the fact that he does have a uniform, but even that's not like as hokey as the first couple were. Like it looks like a bit more modern.
The only time they get hokey with it is when he needs a uniform for the end and goes back to his, and grabs his old uniform. Like the whole movie, he's trying to lay low. So he's in street clothes. He's in his, classic MCU disguise, which is just a black baseball hat and aviators. But like, it's so good. The movie's just so good.
He comes out and it's like, even the country in general is like a different place. Like, imagine if you went under ice now and woke up in 2070 and it's like, imagine trying to adjust to that. And they do that really well. So fair number one. I mean, I had it slightly lower, but
let's talk about your number one pick.
Infinity War. All right, everybody. I can't say how excited I was for this movie. And I know you had to be too. Mm-hmm. And I know everybody was, right? Because it's such an ambitious thing. But there was so much that we had to figure out going into it from a standpoint of, coming off of Civil War, the team is divided, right? Thor and Hulk are off elsewhere, not near them. How are the Guardians going to fit in? How is Strange going to fit in? How does Spider-Man fit it, right? Like there was so much like we didn't know. We didn't know anything about the Soul Stone, right? Like we didn't know how Thanos was going to acquire the stones. We also knew that a lot of these heroes' contracts were up. So the idea was people are going to die. Who's going to die? I thought it was going to be the main team and that like Spider-Man and Black Panther and all those guys were going to be the ones that survived and we're going to have to avenge the fallen Cap and Iron Man. And so like when the snap happens and those guys are the ones that go, I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like from the moment this movie opens up in space, Ebony Maw, hear me and rejoice. Like it's such a chilling intro, so different from anything we've ever seen from it. Like they didn't even have they had the traditional Marvel opening, but it wasn't that dun 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 dun. Like it was like a very ominous, chilling intro.
The cold
and
open.
Then, I could talk about this movie for hours. The whole thing, like Loki calling back, we have a Hulk, but then Hulk gets waxed, and then Loki and then Loki's death was a big thing. Like that was pretty wild. Seeing Tony and Strange fight Ebony Maw and Cole Obsidian in the street, and Peter comes in to save him. Seeing the Guardians go to nowhere, and they see the Collector, and he's like in a container, and then Thanos is like trying to taunt him, and then Gamora goes up and stabs him in the heart, and I was like, oh. It's like in the first act, I was like, what? And then it was like, oh, that's right, the stone. And so
then he shifts the reality.
And it's like, oh my God, like totally got me. When Wanda and Vision are in the train station, and then Cap shows up and he catches the thing, and like he and Black Widow take down Proxima Midnight and Horus Glaive. all the Wakanda stuff, and Thor getting Stormbreaker and that whole drama, and then popping up in Wakanda, like that scene where Thor pops up in Wakanda with Rocket on his shoulder and Groot, and they walk in and everyone's like, yes, Thor is here. Like, second only to Portals, that is my favorite scene in the MCU by far. And then, of course, like, Thor comes in and gets Thanos in the chest, and you're like, oh my God, they got him. They won. Like, this is crazy. And then he's like, you should have went for the head. And he snaps anyway. And it was like, what?
Yeah.
I saw this movie probably 5 or 6 times in theaters. It's the most
Oh, wow.
most I've ever seen a movie in theaters. I've seen it so many times since it came out. It was I've talked about Matt a lot on this episode. It was the first time that we had hung out like one-on-one as good friends, and we've been best friends ever since. So sentimental value on that part too. I love this movie so much. So many moments. The Soul Stone, the Red Skull popping back up, that was really cool. And then Gamora's death was shocking. Didn't see that coming. So that also for me, I don't want to say minimized Black Widow's death, because they did a good job at.
I would argue that Black Widow's death was more dramatic just because of the scene afterwards where they come back from the past, and then Hawkeye, Clint has to explain what happened to all these people that love her just as much as he does, and they're like, well, where is she? Well, go ask him. He's angry. Like, it was.
You take your hammer, you go.
Yeah, that was such a dramatic thing. Like, but the Gamora thing was surprising. That had shock value. That's
my thing. Is because by the time that Widow and Hawkeye get to Vormir, you know
how it has
happen.
to end. Yeah.
Whereas with Gamora, you don't know until right when it happens. When it's like, you've got to give up something you love. And she's like, aha, got him. You don't love anything. And you see him cry, and you're like, no.
Yeah.
You're like, no. And he does. And it's like, oh, man. The whole thing, there's so many gotcha moments for me that, like, I had just allowed myself to just believe whatever they were telling me. And it was the best theater experience I'd ever had. So, like, when he pulls, Wanda destroys the Mind Stone, and you're like, they got him. They got him.
He'll never have all the stones. He can't have all the stones. One of them's destroyed.
He can't have it. He got him. And then he's like, now is no time to mourn. Now is no time
at all.
And you're like,
oh, so good. Yeah.
And I know I'm really nerding out right now. The
movie's unbelievably good. No, I mean, you're right.
The fight on Titan, where Thanos pops up and Strange is sitting there, and he's like, oh yeah, you're much more of a Thanos. And it's just so good, man. He's like, I think you'll find our will is equal to yours. He's like, our? And I think it's just so good, man.
Yeah, it is. It is. I could watch that movie anytime.
Same. All right, so you want to just real quick recap? I'll read mine, you read yours.
Sure.
29 down, we have The Incredible Hulk, Thor Dark World, Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3, Thor, Wanda Vision, Black Widow, Captain Marvel, What If, Doctor Strange, Ant-Man, Loki Season 1, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, Black Panther, Guardians Volume 2, Age of Ultron, Spider-Man Homecoming, Cap, the First Avenger, Iron Man, Spider-Man Far From Home, Avengers, Guardians of the Galaxy, Captain America the Winter Soldier, Thor Ragnarok, Captain America Civil War, Endgame, Infinity War.
We had very similar lists. I really enjoyed like the 2 or 3 that we had, just like complete opposite. Like, I love the difference in Shang-Chi. I love our differences in Thor. Yeah. That was a lot of fun to talk about. I'll run through mine real quick. I had at the very bottom of the list Incredible Hulk, Thor Dark World, Iron Man 2, Captain Marvel, Shang-Chi, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Loki Season 1, Avengers Age of Ultron, Black Panther, Ant-Man, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Doctor Strange, Captain America: First Avenger, Black Widow, Iron Man 3, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, What If, Avengers, Thor Ragnarok, Wanda Vision, Spider-Man: Far From Home, First Iron Man, Spider-Man: Homecoming, First Thor, Guardians of the Galaxy, Captain America: Civil War, Infinity War, Endgame, Captain America: Winter Soldier.
Damn good list, man. Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
It's funny because we started it off exactly the same, and then
Yeah.
differences started coming in. I like too that there were spots where like I had Ant-Man and Doctor Strange, you had Doctor Strange then Ant-Man, like at the same numbers. So.
And I could, and those were ones that I'm like, I mean, I could
go either
like,
way.
There's so many. There's just so many things that like to really decide which one is a favorite, I have to watch them back to back. But like, they're both great, and that's where they belong on the list interchangeably.
I agree. There's a lot that like I'm kind of rethinking where I had Iron Man 3. Like I think you could move a lot of these up and down. I think the really important thing here is that really, even if you want to talk about the ones that we have at the bottom of the list, none of them are really bad. They're good movies.
Yeah.
They're a lot of fun. I had a damn blast talking about this with you. This was
a lot of fun.
Show.
Yeah, this has got to be our longest one. My freaking
I think we
both
might.
My iPad and my AirPods are like, stop recording, stop.
I think we did a solid 2 hours. So
wow.
Thank you
what
guys
a journey
for sticking with us to the end. If you did, this was by far the longest one we've done.
Yeah.
You know, obviously lists like these, people are going to have gripes and whatnot. But that's the fun of lists.
Let's hear him, because I would love to talk Marvel with anybody that's listening.
Yeah,
I'd love to see lists of your own if you want to make them.
Yeah, if you're on YouTube, throw them in the comments below. Let us know what you thought. Let us know if you think I'm an idiot for having something where it's at. I don't care. I love to nerd out and interact with you guys. So let us know what you thought. Shout us out on Twitter and Instagram. All of our links are in the show notes below. So let us know. Let us know, folks. And then next week, I had so much fun with this. Let's do Star Wars next, buddy.
You want to do Star Wars next? Let's do it.
Star Wars next week.
Yeah, I feel like that one will be a lot shorter, but will be just as fun.
Half the content, but that will be a lot more divisive, I'm sure.
Probably. Yeah, you're probably right. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that would be a great time. Well, again, thank you guys for sticking with us to the end. If you did, if you caught this in chunks or however you did it, we appreciate it always. Until next time, folks, keep on keeping on.